I do? What'll you do? Play that trumpet, play that trumpet.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS Idris.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. It is Wednesday night, January the 23rd on into the 24th, and the moon and stars are shining bright here in the Arkansas sky. But baby, it's too damn cold outside to go outside. But we are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, and our website is lightingthevoid.com. Tonight we're going to be speaking with Justin and Paul from Dreaming Jaguars YouTube channel about the DMT experience. This is the first time we've ever done a show about this, and I'm stoked about it because it's the one thing I don't have a story about. I can't tell you an experience about it, but I want to do it. But so we're going to be speaking with them about their DMT experiences, which is a substance known as dimethyltryptamine or the spirit molecule ayahuasca. The journey through consciousness using shamanic methods of this way. This is what they're all about. And they've got a YouTube channel, and it's pretty cool. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But I do want to give a shout out to all of you guys. Thank you so much for listening, wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web. If you want to text into the show tonight, it's 501-777-5631. The phones will be down because this conversation is going to get deep. And another cool thing we're going to do is we're actually going to play one of their experiences as they're going through it. Now, it's not live as far as the experience goes because I wanted to, well, here's what happened. Justin hit me up. So this guy, Justin, he hit me up and he emailed me messages about DMT, and he would, let me know he listened to the show and they were thinking about starting a YouTube channel. And he would talk to me about this, and he would send me files of their sessions, and I would listen to them, go through this. And I would think, man, this is one of the greatest things ever. We got to get you on the show. We got to talk to you about it. And so everything's coming into fruition about that. I do want to say thanks to you guys that have supported us, Genevieve, Christian, Travis, Barbara, Jan, Eric. I'm probably missing somebody, Destry, all of you guys that have supported us this past month. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it because I know it ain't been easy for folks. But, yeah, man, it is freaking freezing outside. When the eclipse happened, I didn't get to talk to you guys about that, but I love the night sky. It's one things I'm addicted to besides all the bad stuff in life. But all of the cool stuff is happening in the winter, and I can't stand outside for more than 5 minutes. I can't take it. So I know kind of why like everybody was watching the eclipse on their YouTube channels, which I thought was a cop-out until I actually went outside. I was like, Jesus. So I watched it for about 5 or 10 minutes. It was really cool, actually, but I couldn't take the cold. But the focus tonight, I guess we're going to do the DMT thing. We're not actually going to do it. Not yet, anyways. But the DMT experience, how effective it is to explore consciousness. Why is it such the rave right now? Back in the day when Rogan and Terrance Mckenna thing was happening, when his podcast came out, everybody was talking about it, about how they actually would go to other dimensions with these substances. And at first you don't believe it till you really start looking into it. Then you realize that there's actually something to it. There's actually something to this whole shamanic journey thing type deal, whatever you want to call it. Because we have this, I guess, preconceived notion that it's just drug use. But the fact is that we're all holding. But the real question is the experiences that you have, they explain how vivid they are, and you're going to get to hear one of these experiences. Is it real? Are these entities that you meet real? Who are these entities? What are some of the parallels that happen to these people when they go into these realms? I know you guys remember me talking to you about the Serpent Kings and stuff, right? So we're going to talk about that too. So imagine that this stuff that's in your pineal gland that secretes when you sleep and supposedly secretes when you die, but everybody's holding. But imagine that you could put this in a synthetic form and you could actually do it and go on a little journey, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, maybe it feels longer. And you slip through another dimension, seeing geometrical shapes, figures, things that are so fantastic that you can't really explain. I set up on YouTube the other night and watched people do this. And there was one YouTube video where I think an atheist became a believer after just 5 minutes of this stuff. And he'd been an atheist his whole life, and then he believed in God afterwards. Now, come on. I've done mushrooms. Some of you guys that, aren't squares, you've done mushrooms. You did acid back in the day, whatever. Did that change your beliefs? Because it really didn't. Not for me. But this stuff makes me really curious. I got to be honest with you. I'm thinking about doing it just once. But imagine that you're going through this. One little puff or whatever, or however you do it. Hopefully it's a puff, or you could take ayahuasca and you're off. You're somewhere else. And you'll never be able to explain it. It'll be one of the most fantastic things that you've ever done, but you'll never be able to explain it fully to anybody. And like I said, I actually have no personal story here to tell you about this, but Justin and Paul do. And they're from the UK. And as I said before, Justin was a frequent listener of Lighting the Void and contacted me, and then I kind of fell in love with these guys because they're cool. And you'll see how sometimes I get carried away when I talk to people like this. And Moon knows that too. People like in the chat over there in Spreaker, they know if I'm buddies with you. I'll try not to talk too much, but sometimes I do, because these conversations are so freaking interesting to me. I mean, consciousness is my favorite thing to talk about. It's kind of like a word that we've beat up, consciousness, but it is my favorite thing to discuss, because I don't necessarily believe that these realms that we go to are not real. But I want to jump right into this. And so if you guys could check it out, go to YouTube and just search Dreaming Jaguars, and you'll find their YouTube channel. They've got 4 videos up now, I believe, and they're here with us right now in the virtual shack, so to speak. But I think, okay, I'm just going to be honest with you, because I didn't really want to say this. I've thought about doing this like on the air, like literally on the air, where you guys could hear what I was going through. I've talked to Eric about it, and he don't think it's a good idea. I've talked to there's only a couple of you that think it's actually a good idea. And I considered doing this for so long. But the thing about it is there's no telling what I'm going to say, so I can't do it. But anyways, we're going to talk to Justin and Paul from the Dreaming Jaguars are here with us. How you guys doing?
Very well, man. Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to talk about you two before we get into the whole dimethyltryptamine thing, the experience and all of that, because that's the meat, that's the beauty of what I wanted to talk about. By the way, it's really cool you guys are the first people I've talked to about this, and it's really cool to get to talk to somebody that's experienced it the way you guys have. I've actually got to listen to some of y'all's sessions, right, quote sessions, and we might actually play some of that so you guys can get the kind of feel for it here. But I want to know, first off, how in the hell, you guys don't seem like this Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo, these kind of, you're just normal dudes like me, right? So how the hell did you guys get into this? I know it's a long story, but I want to find out how you guys are friends and then how you got into the DMT thing.
Okay, well...
you start with the friends, how we become friends, and then I'll go into how the DMT came about.
Yeah, because that makes sense. All right, fair enough. So, long time ago, I was working as a steeplejack, and that's where we worked on church spires and industrial chimneys. And Paul came along as an employee, first in the job, and came and worked with me. So he was like the first boy that I would train up, young guy that I would start to train up. And initially, we kind of gelled straight away, and then we used to speak about lots of different things, driving to work. One of us would drive, the other would read. And then I suppose from that end, we really kind of gelled, had this relationship going where we would discuss lots of different things about
fringe science,
physics, cosmology, magic, the Ouija board,
life after death, mortality, and just we were into Stephen Hawking's and just sort of stuff about the universe, so on and so forth. So it was. We had some good conversations.
Yeah, we had long conversations, deep conversations, and those kind of conversations you can't really have with, a lot of people. There's only a few people that you can really get into these subjects with and break it down. And back in the day, being, youths, if you like, I was just breaking into my 20s, and I think you were like 18, weren't you? So really, to be able to discuss this stuff was like quite unique, and we both had our different kind of take on it. And I suppose from that, do you remember flip theory?
Yeah.
So we discussed for ages this thing, flip theory, which we then discovered had already been like kind of spoken about, which you speak about all the time, Joe, with the astral projection or remote viewing. We used to discuss back then how we
nicknamed it flip theory.
Flip theory, yeah. And we discussed that there were lots of different subjects. So I suppose from that element, that's what really brought us together and allowed this kind of conversations to flow with us. And we had hours of driving to jobs sometimes, so it gave us plenty of time to discuss it. And I suppose through our life, even though you left that company, I carried on, but we just carried on having our, talking and whatever. And, and then I think I mentioned on part of, or some of my stuff, I because of the fact that I worked away or became faithless, if you like, and Paul always remained faithful or had faith.
Faith loosely in the word. Loosely, the word faith, is
like something's there, but you just don't know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, faith. It's not tied into a religion, but it's an assurance or a confidence that there is more than we, as humans, understand about the way the universe, reality works. I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, obviously, when you take that stuff away, it becomes quite. I don't know, I want to say scary, but not scary. Things become a bit bleak, and there were times in my life when, I would I would not worry, or like when your first child comes along, that brings a lot of things to the mind of an ordinary man. Like, I've got someone to care for now, and I've got to make sure that I do the right thing. And this brought this mental process of me trying to understand what I'm doing, and then this understanding of consciousness and where we're going to go after we die and that kind of thing. And you can't have that subject, or you can't talk about that subject with a lot of people. So luckily I had Paul, and I would discuss these things with Paul, and Paul...
You had each other, didn't you?
Yeah, I suppose. We did have each other. Yes, thanks, mate, yeah. And, so in relaying the stuff that I used to talk to Paul about, he would give me something back, and then it would kind of ease or comfort me for a bit, but it would always come round. So effectively what that did was was the Spirit Molecule, not the Spirit Molecule, the Celestine Prophecies was one of them books you gave.
And then that was sort of the last bit before the DMT came about.
Yeah, yeah. So, existential crisis, I'm worried about stuff. Paul tells me about this, I read a book. That's generally how it went, because back in that day we used to read quite a lot. I mean, I don't have time much anymore, but...
Yeah, well...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It is a scary... I mean, nobody wants to talk about it, right? But it is a scary feeling, not knowing. Like, everybody thinks that they got this idea because we're human, that there's some kind of meaning to our life or something after. But when you really start thinking to yourself... And most people do this. If they haven't, they just don't admit it. But when you start thinking to yourself, what if this is just not what I think it is at all? And I'm only going to live once and this is it, and there's really nothing else to it. And it's all just a big, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in my head, right? Like it's all just a big illusion so we can make ourselves feel better, but we're really just going to die. And that's it. Nobody wants to talk about that stuff, but they think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but do they, Joe? Do they? Or do some people literally just shut it out and not actually consider this, the afterlife, whether it's there or not, or you know what I mean? But there's people in.
Well, I think somebody that comes into an awareness, I guess you could say, wakes up a little bit. I don't know about waking up, but I think logical people at some point in their life will question their nature, their existence. But you're right. Yeah. Maybe some people never do.
Yeah. See, I've always thought that if the thought process about dying and what happens after death really only matters if you just die and then there's nothing, then it doesn't. All of the existential worrying about what's going to happen to your kids and your wife and your family, you're not going to fucking know about anyway, pardon the French.
Right? Yeah, no, you're not. Yeah, you're not going to know.
So it doesn't. So then it's not an issue. So it's only an issue if you because there's almost like an underlying. There's almost like if you think about dying, and you're thinking about what's going to happen after, then you're almost still thinking that you're going to continue anyway. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it does. Subconsciously, you are.
So subconsciously, you are. That's where the worry is. The worry isn't in actually the act of dying, or the act of dying, not the act of dying, but if you die and there's nothing, then nothing matters anyway.
Yeah.
The fact that you continue, subconsciously, you're thinking, you haven't grasped the concept of nothing because you're still thinking that there's a continuation.
But my ego is saying to me, what am I going to miss?
Yeah,
you know what
but
I mean?
You're not going to miss anything. If there is nothing after death, then you're not. There's nothing.
No, I'm not. No, but I'm not going to understand it, and that's another worry. That's another thing.
But for me, it is too. Exactly. Yeah. Like, even though I'm not going to miss it, or I'm not going to care, and I'm not going to feel anything, I'm just not going to exist. My son's still on this planet, and I don't like the thought of him being alone, and so it's like worrying in the future, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that caused me issues. It didn't cause me issues. It was just one of them things. I'm like, who can I go to? Who can I talk to about this stuff? Because there isn't, not a lot of people are that deep to actually, understand that I'm thinking about it, or have an answer, or not even an answer, just give me some point of view from their point of view. Because like you said, Joe, or like we have maybe this understanding, and the people who probably listen to your show have done exactly the same as what we've done. But there are people out there who ignore that fear or that worry and just get on with their lives, and then right at the end of their lives, bang, that's when it hits them.
Yeah, and then they're freak out. Yeah,
exactly.
More like, right.
And I don't want to feel like that, because I'm the kind of person, I have to actually break things down and understand it. So,
buddy, you've died many times now.
Yeah. And it's a big thing to understand, and you can't. And that then leads us on to where, you know, this thing with Paul, he handed me the spirit molecule.
So let me go on from there then. Yeah?
Tell us the story about that.
So basically, so you know, from our videos, I've never had a problem with thinking that there's more to reality than what we see here. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, a spider in the corner of a garage has no concept of Donald Trump or Brexit or any, you know, it's beyond, it's outside of its conceptual existence. So right. Why should we be the end of the line? Why should we, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it probably continues way on up the chain. I mean, you know, as if we're a fish in a lake, and the fish has got no concept of New York City, right? But it's there. It just does not have the degree of intelligence to be able to understand. So I've always thought like that. My parents were quite into occult stuff. They were fascinated by it. We did Ouija boards I did Ouija boards as a youngster, as an early teenager, with my mum and dad. And my dad, so I've always been fascinated about it, fascinated in that side of things. And my dad, unfortunately, was killed when I was 17. And that, I suppose, compounded my interest in it, because now I'm thinking, the closest person to me is now either made that leap into what we have been looking at as a family for quite some time. So I'm now even more eager to find out what's going on. So I've sort of been on this mission, maybe dealing with my own grief, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've not analysed that side of me too much, but that's probably what drove me forward in trying to find out what's going on with reality and after-death experience and so on and so forth. So I happened to spend an evening with a friend of mine, or a friend of my wife's, who was going out with this guy, and he was a bit of a sort of hippie character, and he had had a DMT experience. So we were up late one night. He told me about it, and of course I'd never heard about it before. We started looking online, and I was like, shit, this is it. This is the one. This is the gateway. This is actually a way for me to be able to take a substance and possibly, if the Mckenna stories are real, and obviously there's a massive group of sort of peers in this subject that all say similar things and tell similar stories about travelling to another dimension, meeting intelligences, this sort of godlike aspect of it. And I'm like, this is it. This is what we've got to do. This is what I've got to find. So at this time, obviously, Justin and I are working together. And I said to him, the guy that I was with on the evening had put me onto the DMT, the Spirit Molecule, the book written by Rick Strassman, which is obviously, if you guys don't know, it's a study that was taken, that he undertook in the 90s, testing DMT on medical patients. And his original ethos was to study the compound and to try and look actually for, you know, a cure for schizophrenia or to try and mimic schizophrenia or something along those lines. It was never for the experiences of the people that were in the studies that had a very similar range of experiences. All of a sudden his attention is drawn away from the original, you know, point of the experiments to, hang on a minute, there's something here. These guys are seeing aliens, angels, entities, gods, so on and so forth. So I gave the book to Justin. He read it. And then we were both sort of like on the journey. Then that was how we were.
But the key point of the book was or not the key point, but there were bits in that book that I read and what I understood from it, which when they went into the realms of the DMT, when they took that and it, you know, the Spirit Molecule, when they took it, answers to questions that they may or may not have known were there, or worries and fears were pretty much given. They were offered up by these entities or these things that they were meeting.
Reassurances.
Reassurances.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't worry. You don't need to worry. There's nothing to worry about. You've done this a million times before. This is a familiar place. And those are the sort of things that when you actually have had the experience yourself, that's what you get. Not all the time.
Not all the time, no.
Well, I remember the first time I heard, I think I heard Rogan talk about it, and then I started listening to Mckenna, and I was like, okay, there's something real to this for sure. And then I found a video of these young boys going out trying this stuff on I guess it was a lake bank or maybe a river bank, I don't remember. And one of the boys was an atheist, and this was a long time ago. And they just videotaped themselves hitting this DMT and then woke up, and the one boy was like, I went to whatever God is, whatever that thing is, I was there. It's like his whole, you could watch the guy's whole belief system and everything just change. And he didn't, he had no doubt about it. And that's what convinced me.
Yeah. Well, it's they say it's 30 years of therapy in one night. That's and you can. I mean, I've seen not only my own belief systems have really changed to a certain extent, have just been sort of completely, stamped with the seal of approval that I actually now am on the right path, if that makes sense. But I have seen people, as we described earlier, a friend of ours who his complete belief system, or what it changed, came to hold dearly, was something that he'd never even experienced before, let alone thought about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think for the people that are in this reality want to know why, like, because people like me that are kind of afraid to do it, but want to, they want an explanation. Where did you go? What did you see? And it's kind of frustrating because everybody that talks about it, it's like one of the greatest experiences ever, but they can't explain it, not fully.
Yeah. Because the concepts or the visuals, the things that you see, they're very difficult to return back to this reality and actually vocalize or talk about,
because it's so alien. It's so out there. It's like Mckenna says that experience is vibrating at such a level that to bring it back to English, to the English language, just there is no language to explain that experience, and that's very true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
because you when you come out of the experience, and we'll obviously get to the experience itself, but when you come out of the experience for the first minute, when you're still, you're as far as you're concerned, you're back to reality. But if you put that alongside the strongest mushroom trip or acid trip that you could ever possibly imagine, that's where you are at that time. But as far as you're concerned, from where you just came from to where you are at that point, that's what's going on in your mind. So you're half in and half out, and you can the concepts you can hold on to for a couple of minutes, which is why we try to write down or draw what we've seen, because a minute later and that stuff just slips through your fingers like a dream, and then it becomes a dream, and all you're left with are screenshots of the visions.
So what I wanted to talk about real quick with this is that I think one thing I have a problem with, and I wanted to discuss with these guys, is there's this idea that all of this happens in the mind. And when I say mind, that all of it happens just in the brain. And I don't think that that's true at all. Because if you look at it, if you look at the brain, I mean, I looked at this picture the other day, right? And it was just the brain and the stem in a piece of glass. And I'm looking at this thing, man, like this blob of brain and stem. And I'm like, is this really all I am? And that's the materialistic idea of things, right? So that's what people think we are, so to speak. They think that that's all we are for some reason. So, because it was so late in the UK, we had to record this. So it's like 5 a.m. So, but And later, I promise you guys, I'm going to play a clip, one of the clips that Justin sent me from when he used to send me these clips of this stuff. This is actually how I got interested in it. But it really kind of freaked me out when I saw this, when I saw the brain and the brainstem, because that's really, if we looked at things from a materialistic point of view, which most of us that listen to the show, I know we don't, but if we looked at things from just a materialistic point of view, then that's all we really are. We're just this big wormy thing with a stem. And man, come on, you guys know that that's not all we are, right? That can't be all we are. So when we come back, we're going to discuss that a little bit more as well with Justin and Paul from Dreaming Jaguars. You guys don't forget, later on, we're going to play an actual clip of them, I guess, going through the experience. And maybe one day I'll go through the experience live to be on the air. We'll be right back.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio. Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
We're talking about the DMT experience with Justin and Paul from Dreaming Jaguars YouTube channel. Go check it out on YouTube. Just search Dreaming Jaguars. And if you want to find the channel, you know, there's a little drop down there that says you can just search for channel. They got 4 videos out, and before the break we were discussing the materialistic idea are really, is that really all you are, is the brain and stem. And don't forget, later in the show, we're going to play an actual clip of an experience that Justin sent me so you can hear them walk through it kind of and try to explain it as they're in the experience, or just coming out of it, rather. So is that, what is that? I mean, is that all we are? I hate to think that. But it could be. I have no proof. Like, I have no scientific proof that we're not more than that. But I think deep down, that's all, that we're more than just that. Also, if you want to chat with us, there's a chat room over on Spreaker. There's a 24/7 chat on thefringe.fm. If you email producer@thefringe.fm, that email is down. I know some people have been hitting me up about that, and I just want to tell you guys that email is down. It's not working right now. It got bombarded with something crazy, so I had to delete the whole thing. But yeah, that's what we're gonna discuss. I mean, do you guys think that the brain and the mind are two different things? When somebody talks about the mind, that's not really the materialistic brain. All right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that so when scientists and recent studies at King's College Hospital and so on and so forth, these guys are putting people under with MRIs or whatever the brain scan is, and they were expecting to see elevated brain waves in the visual cortex and elevated areas of the brain because of the activity, because of the nature of the experience. You would expect the brain to be going haywire, but actually the brain shuts down during those experiences and becomes way more reduced. And that was a massive spanner in the works for these guys, because they're like, what the hell's going on? We were expecting to see this, and we're actually seeing this. So at that point, when you're having that experience, which is so far beyond your normal waking consciousness or any dream, dreams are nothing like, when we say that it's like a dream, the DMT experience, the nature of remembering a dream, that's the only similarity, because you don't, in a DMT experience, there is no, I'm walking up the hills with my dog, and my wife's there and my kids are there. And the experience is so far removed from anything that you could possibly ever even conceive of imagining that, that's a massive, a butting of heads. That the brain would expect the brain to be really, really elevated, but actually it shuts right down. But you're having this experience that is just so far beyond anything else.
Visually.
So I think you're right.
You can hear the sounds. Actually, Joe, you were discussing the other day the near-death experience, and when somebody done a study on it, and they were talking about what these people were seeing, and so from my understanding, if you're having a near-death experience, the scientists are saying, well, the brain isn't actually working, it's shut down. But when you look at what the DMT is doing in the same respect, it might not be shutting it down, but it might be actually doing stuff or vibrating or working in a way that we're not capable of measuring at the moment. And in the same way, it might be happening with the near-death experiences. There might be something there, because the brain, the visual cortex shuts down. It doesn't work in the same way, but maybe there's some sort of change in how it actually perceives stuff. Because when you take that molecule, when that actually hits your brain, there's no way that, like Paul was saying, you'd expect the brain to be going mad with what you're seeing, the geometry, the meeting with entities. You're hearing music even though there's no music, or you're hearing someone talking even though they're not talking. You know what I mean? It's just. But
also as well, you got the brain. So through evolution, if we are, if our brain and our waking consciousness is designed to keep us moving through this physical reality, then obviously it needs to filter. We know, science knows that there are radio waves and molecules and particles and everything else moving through us and through just reams of stuff going on that we don't perceive and have any knowledge of had we not got to a scientific point in technology where we're able to measure these things. So the brain essentially filters everything out so that we can function in this physical reality. So maybe an option with the DMT experience or other experiences like it is that you take that molecule, which your body produces naturally anyway. It's in nature and it's in plants and animals tenfold across the planet. You have this molecule inside you. The filter system is then, or your brain chemistry is rearranged so that the filter system is possibly eradicated, and then you're open to perceive levels of reality that aren't otherwise accessible, if that makes sense.
It's kind of like messing with a carburetor on a motor, right? You just opened it all the way up. Now it's really functioning. I got you.
It's running like a dream.
Or changing a program on a computer.
Running like a dream too.
Running like a dream. Yeah.
But when you tell me that makes me think, Justin, that a part of you still believes that it might be just in the brain still.
Yeah, because I'll come out and Paul and I will have these conversations, and he always says to me, I don't know why you don't just believe in the experience you've had rather than what somebody else is telling you what your experience is. And I do always break, I look back and I try and look for some sort of facts and I argue it. I can't argue it, and then I can argue it. It's like the ghosts or the things that I saw in my house as a teenager. I know these things happened, but I will still put it down to the fact that your memory changes or can corrupt some memory that was there. So the brain is just like a really strange thing that it can give you what you want when you want it. So I'll come out of that experience. And I have had comfort for the last 15 years or whatever it is. It has brought some sort of, okay, well, I've got to step back and look now. Reality isn't what I actually thought it is. And when you totally corrupt your reality with this compound, you come back from it and then you have to literally, it is astounding where you are and the things or the people who, the entities you meet, like the way they talk or the information they give you, you can't bring that back fully, but there's still something there that is just like, it just flips me every time. So if I'm like materialistic, if I'm living in my own mind of like everything is material, physics, this stuff, I'll come out of that and then I'm like, yeah, all right, I've got to argue this stuff because there's no way that I can put any real understanding in our reality right now and then argue against what I've seen in that reality, that place that I've gone there. And, I think if you look at, so everything is made up of atoms or whatever. So these compounds are made up of vibrations, if you go back to that string theory stuff. So maybe in some way it's vibrating you in a different way and you're able to perceive stuff that is always there.
What's funny about what you're saying is listening to you try to explain this from a material level. It seems like it's harder for you to explain that than it is the other reality.
Definitely. Yeah. And the thing is like everything in this reality that we perceive or we understand is from this reality. So there's no real way, if you are moving into a different dimension, if it is a different reality, then you can't measure it. There's no way they can put a scan on your brain and understand, I believe, what you're seeing, because everything in this reality is made up from the matter of this reality.
And there's also no context in that reality to be able to relate. You learn from relating a new situation to an old situation that you had or that you've experienced before. So if you have an experience where there is no context to this experience that we have as waking human beings, then it's impossible to explain that experience. Is just it's so difficult to even put anything. I mean, sorry, go on, John.
Well, I'm just wondering, have either one of you ever read, I gotta bring this book up so much, but have either one of you ever read Journeys Out of the Body or listened to the audiobook?
No.
Is this the Monroe Institute?
Right. Robert, so I know both of you would appreciate this because Robert Monroe reports his experiences, not as if he's an occultist or anything like that, just his experiences. That's all he does is he reports them. But what happens is this guy perceives to leave his body, which some people think he does. Some people think that he's actually just going into this consciousness realm. But what happens is he can actually go to somewhere else, perceive what somebody else is doing in real time, come back and report it, and then verify the reports. And this is what has been happening at the Monroe Institute for years now. Now, with that being said, if you can do that, then don't you think that would indicate that there's something outside of the physical brain, that it's a part of you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's any other way, to be honest with you. And that's what I said. I mean, that's why I've sort of had this reassurance for such a long time. The other thing I say to Justin as well, that, when we're talking about our physical reality, then we're talking about the physics of our physical reality. And obviously, when you take the physics of our physical reality back to quantum physics, which is so far as we know now, as far down the scale as that we can go, then in quantum physics, there is no matter. So thus, if I am made of matter, then at that baseline level, I am made of quantum physics, and therefore matter doesn't exist, and we become, energy, the matrix, whatever you want to call it. We
infinite probabilities.
Infinite probability. So therefore, in the DMT, I try not to sort of say that's the DMT experience and this is the physical reality, because then you start to think, well, okay, it's happening in my brain, it's only in my brain, but you take it back to quantum physics, and there is no brain. There is no matter, so it's just probability. You know what I mean? And how maybe at the quantum level, the DMT experience, and there's some interesting stuff that we can get into in a little while with regards to a new scientific theory that's come out with regards to geometry in the brain, multi-dimensional geometry, which is awesome. And when we heard this theory, we've obviously doing some research and we stumbled across it. We started watching videos about it, and you think of the DMT experience, you're like, wow, man, that's so similar. It's ridiculous. So should I touch on that now, Joe? Do you want to touch on that?
Well, I wanted to tell you guys about, it's so crazy because I had this dream last night, and I wrote it down in my dream journal, which I recommend everybody doing, by the way. If you dream or you had DMT, whatever, write that shit down, okay? Yeah. And I was asking this being or God or whatever, I was like, what is consciousness or whatever? How does all this work? And this being kind of, and it happened so fast. It was like you're in a static field called space, but there is really no separation until I separate things. And then the being said, watch how I separate things. And then he started talking about the elements. And I think this is because I was reading Agrippa, and he took fire, water, air and earth. And then I watched the earth form. He said, see, now I've trapped some of my consciousness in that ball. Now I'm trying to tell you, like, he was talking to me like I was a baby. And I was like, whoa, I was getting it. And he goes, now I'm going to separate it even further. And then he showed me the trees growing and everything. And he said, I've trapped some of my consciousness in these things. Now I'm going to separate it even further. And then I watched humans like babies, and I was thinking, it's just consciousness separation and in a weird, crazy ass form,
Yeah.
And we're stuck in this fucking marble. And we think it's ultimate reality, but it's just a very small piece of consciousness,
Yeah, exactly that. I can totally get that.
Yeah, I was thinking, but a static field, so I was like, so is the star system like fiber optics? And that's all I remember. That's all. There was so much more to that dream, but I wrote down everything I could, and that was it.
Yeah, awesome.
So I can't wait to do DMT. See what I'm going to learn.
Awesome. It's awesome.
The learning thing is and what you were just talking about there is like, ever since I started doing this stuff, you come out with a little bit of knowledge, and then your brain is just trying to put it all together. And in the same respect,
the ego,
the ego comes in and tries to make sense of it. But the whole thing about consciousness, and then so time and space, really, does it even exist? If it doesn't, then what does it actually mean? And if they're just like you said, so creates a world or something, or even a bit of matter, and then adds a bit of consciousness to it.
Yeah.
So there's infinite probabilities to that bit of matter, that thing that isn't there until something perceives it. But when the consciousness, which is the part of that matter, is actually conceiving it, then that's when it forms into something that we can perceive in this reality. So it doesn't matter about time and space, like the simulation theory. It doesn't matter, or Rupert Sheldrake and his morphic resonance, like universal memory. If it's all one thing, if consciousness or God or that thing is one thing, and then it's creating something, we're all connected to that one thing. So it doesn't matter whether you're a piece of matter or you're a combination of matter and biology with a conscious. When you are perceiving this reality, you can perceive the space and everything around it. But when this is where it brought me to, if I do die and if I go back to that one consciousness, then it doesn't matter whatever's happened in the universe or whatever time or space it is, because I'm the thing. I'm back to that one thing that's created everything. So I will eventually understand the whole lot. That probably was just me rambling.
No, I get it, but I get it. I wanted to talk about the, let's see, I wanted to talk about I don't even know if you can, the semantics of it, if it's even possible. But you guys, earlier you mentioned entities. Mm-hmm. Entities to mean separate beings that are outside of you. They may be a part of your consciousness, but I've got this theory, because I study the occult and magic, and I'm fascinated with why this stuff works. What I call bleed through. Like somehow or another, we figured out how to do certain meditations or rituals or some symbols or whatever and speak to whatever this is, and every now and then we get bleed through, and we call it paranormal activity. But what I think about these entities like aliens and all this other stuff, I wonder if these are just beings that can handle these other realms that can bleed through, or are they just parts of your consciousness? What are y'all's experience with these entities?
Okay, Joe, I'll come back to you in a minute, Paul, with the Carly thing, but Joe, you have spoken recently on your show that I've been listening to. You got the Serpent Kings. So in one example, I've literally been enveloped by a massive serpent that wouldn't allow me. It wanted to give me some information. I didn't want it. I was in quite a bad place recently, and I tried to not. I didn't want this information, but when I came out, it was a massive black and white serpent that was holding me and trying to give me the information. And then you've got other things that you've spoken about, like shadow beings, and like from some of them clips we've sent you, where there was some shadow thing behind me and it was trying to do something to me in that place. So from my perception, I've always kind of been like, well, yeah, maybe it's my brain making it up. But like with the spirit molecule, how is it that the synchronicity is coming in for me right now when I listen to your show and I'm going, hang on a minute, I'm relating it to the experiences I've had. So your astral projection, these entities that you talk about, the magic and the stuff, and people have seen this stuff before. And I'm like, well, I didn't know about this stuff. So where does it come from? It can't be my subconscious putting this in there, because
you've had no knowledge.
I've had no knowledge of it. I don't believe I've had any knowledge of it. So there's definitely some sort of serpent that was there.
So you had the serpent experience before I started talking about it, or after?
Yeah. Last year, probably last summer.
Damn.
Yeah. And and that was around. Yeah, it was actually might even have been the year before.
Yeah, but a lot of people on DMT do experience
the same entities.
Yeah, serpents.
What did it do? I mean, can you tell me at all? Like, can you give me any details about what it was doing?
It was a time in my life where, so we hadn't done it for a while, and then my wife left and stuff. So I'm quite emotional. I was trying to deal with some stuff, and then we come around. of course. Nice summer evening. We're in the back garden, and so we just kind of like, I wasn't easy about doing it, but it had been such a long time, and I thought, you know what, it might be a good idea if I do this, because it might help me through this experience that I'm going through. But actually, when I got into that place, it was quite intense. And
that's an understatement.
Yeah, and like literally, so I'm trying to fight it, and let me tell you, when you try and fight DMT, it will just grab you. But there was a point where I'm kind of like I'm fighting it, and it was trying to tell me something. I've had that recently another time, and I didn't want to hear what it was saying, because the ego kind of crept back and was trying to fight and go, no, you're not in the right place, don't listen to it. So it took me a little bit of time to understand that what I was actually, after I came out, where I'd actually been was I'd been enveloped by, so I thought there were two entities trying to hold me back, but it wasn't. It was the snake that had coiled up around me. Big snake as well. When you put the size of its head was literally like, I don't know, 1.5 meters across or whatever when I'm in that state. And, and it was trying to give me something. Whether that information would have been the correct information or whether it had been trying to deceive me, I don't know. But I was adamant I wasn't going to listen to it. And, and I fought it, and I fought the information it was trying to give me until the point that it just had to, the DMT started to wear off, and it had to kind of feed back and drift away. And when it went, it's like I've come out of it, and I'm like, it was quite, not terrifying, but it's quite harsh, because I knew in me, it's like...
How weird that sounds. You say it's not terrifying, that an enormous snake.
Yeah, I'm thinking, damn, is this thing about to bite your head, or what? How did it give that information?
Physically, it's not.
It's metaphoric.
Yeah, it was there, but physically, it's not, you don't have a fear of it doing some physical damage, because it's funny, when you go into that place, there's a realisation at some point where you go, oh yeah, I've done it. You're seeing all this weird stuff, you're getting all this information, and it's very confusing for the human brain to like put it into perspective. And then as the DMT starts to wear away, you go, oh yeah, I've done DMT, that's what I've done.
Yeah.
That's what that's all about. And then you're like edging to get the information again and get it back.
Yeah, it's too late.
But it's too late. So there's like a bit where I'm like, no, I'm going to fight this. And then I'm like, oh, he's trying to tell me something. And by that time, it kind of drifted away. So
there's something to the, about the Serpent Kings, when I've studied these mystery schools, if you really, even in the Bible, man, if you dig into the, like, deep, so in occultism, right, we're trying to find the hidden message, but even doubly so in some things. And when you look in this stuff, it's all about the Kundalini, the DMT experience. And I know people really don't believe me about that, especially when it comes to Christianity, but it's all there, man. That whole thing is there, that story of the two forces connecting. And, if you really dig into it, that's what it is. It's the serpentine force, and then the DMT lighting up and all, or the pineal and pituitary gland, almost like a spark where it lights up, and then you have this. Anyways, so I'm thinking, okay, so this is something that they've hidden they're hiding from us. They know about, but they don't want us fucking with it because they hid it from us for a long time.
Yeah.
Why are they hiding it? Why?
I suppose because it empowers.
Yeah.
Because what it does is if for argument's sake tomorrow everybody in the world had a DMT experience at the same time, and then and a mass realization that we have this inner ability to be able to perceive these realities or whatever these things are, then it just totally annihilates the current power struggle, the current power structures of the society that we live in, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden the masses go, well, actually, that war, those politicians, that's a load of bollocks. That doesn't mean shit. We've just been, we know that this power is within us, and that's the reason I think it would be hidden. If it is known that we have this ability to, and these exist, these realities do exist, that would be the reason to hide it from us, because if everybody realised that, then we just turn around as an enormous unit to the minuscule elite that run our world and say, fuck you, you don't own us anymore.
I don't need that TV. I don't need that, mate. I don't need any of that shit. All I need is like love and connection and that stuff.
Yeah. So think about this is just my theory, but they've been hiding this stuff from us forever. And then when you dig into the mystery schools, the oldest one to be found is called the Brotherhood of the Snake. And then they talk about serpent kings. And then you read Genesis and there's a serpent that, brings enmity between man and I'm thinking enmity. What is that? Is that like a barrier between consciousness and the other side or whatever? And they hid it in all this stuff. And the more I do the show, I'm tapping into like, wait a minute, everybody that's listening to this show, all these people that are depressed, addicted to opiates, hate themselves, hate their lives, broken, they don't understand that they can actually, and I'm not talking about the secret here, I'm talking about they can manifest things into this physical reality. They don't understand that they've got power, and something's hiding it from us. Yeah.
Not everyone can have that power though, Joe, can they?
No, and you're telling me a dream sequence, or not a dream, but an experience where a serpent was about to give you some information. Now, just stay with me here. You said your ego was fighting that thing, but when you woke up, you kind of was like, wait, I want the information. But what if you don't? What if that serpent is the thing that is holding that barrier? And the reason why you're fighting it is because the real you is who's trying to get out. And it's not your ego, it's the real you.
Yeah, and you know what, maybe that take on it was right, because I didn't actually come out of it and think that I wanted that information. When I came out, I kind of knew that I was in a place that I didn't want to be given that stuff. I didn't want to hear it because, I was like, in truth, there was a lot of emotional pain being felt, and maybe that's why the serpent was there. Maybe it was there to like play with that stuff. Maybe it was there to trick me. I don't know.
Or it's just doing its job to keep you separated from that realm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And it's not the only. I mean, I've been in other occasions where there's been information that's come, but it's come so hard, so fast that it's like been impossible to actually understand it and put it into perspective. And literally, as I've been coming out, I'm like trying to get away from it, and it's followed me. It's kind of like, no, you've got to hear this stuff. And that was all to do with they were Native Americans, even though they didn't. It was.
That's what we call it. Yeah, that's what we call a download. Did you retain the information though? No, I didn't.
Damn. No, I couldn't, because I couldn't grasp it. It was too powerful. It was the geometrics, the concepts that were coming at me were just far, and it had been a long time since I'd done it, and I actually wasn't with Paul at that time, so there was a little bit of I was a little bit uncomfortable, and actually I was a little bit cocky as well when I did it. So there was, but it just threw me, and it wasn't scary. That wasn't scary. That was like, there's just too much. I can't understand what you're trying to give me. You need to, I need to and I actually felt like I'd been like in a dream state, or in the DMT place for a millennia. At the time, I had completely drifted out of my concept, and I thought I'd been gone for such a long time, because it just, time is completely thrown out in that place, isn't it?
Yeah. But going back to what you were talking about, the mystery schools, Joe, and you think, if you go back to Sumerians, the Anunnaki were reptilians, so they're serpents. And if you go back to, and I always remember listening to one of Mckenna's lectures, and he was saying that Yahweh was speaking to one of the angels and saying that if we eat of the tree of forbidden knowledge, then we will become they will become as we are. So maybe, there's a lot of theories on the fruit from forbidden tree is psychedelics. You take psychedelics, they are the fruit of forbidden knowledge. And if you you then become as the gods are. There's that separation that you're talking about. You're able to beat that barrier and see, perceive these other realities with these
Think about how cool that would be. Okay, we've got humans and then we've got entities and angels, but a god, and this is, I don't know. I feel almost like I'm sinning talking about it, but a god can live in both realms and be aware of himself all the time.
Maybe we are gods as well. This is the thing, isn't it? It's like, we're all gods, if that makes sense. We're living this experience. But I mean, talking of gods, so for me, the entities that I come into contact with for the longest time, for probably most of my DMT experiences, they're always feminine. They're always female. They're always motherly, nurturing, and as a mother can be, quite scolding sometimes and quite matter of fact, but ultimately has got your best interests at heart. So a lot of the time, a lot of the entities I perceive are, and I can say this to Justin, and this is quite a weird correlation, because bear in mind, yes, we've done a lot of research, but we hadn't, now we're in the time of YouTube where you can watch videos and you can listen to people's experiences, and there are thousands of them on YouTube. And I remember listening to Graham Hancock talking about his ayahuasca experience, which is obviously DMT, just a slower release, orally active DMT. And he came into contact with a female entity with blue skin, and she told him to write the novel that he had writer's block for a couple of years, and she said he had a concept for a novel. It was a fictional novel, not his normal, ancient civilization stuff. He didn't know how to write it. He came into contact with this entity in an ayahuasca experience. It was a female entity. She had blue skin, and she said to him, "You have to write that novel." And then he went on to write the novel Supernatural. Now, I had not seen that until I watched a YouTube video. And for years before, I have come into contact with a female entity that has blue skin.
Oh, hell.
So, and sometimes she's very fairy-like and elfish-like. Sometimes she's very motherly, but always, different. And it's very difficult to obviously describe what she looks like, but always blue skin, sometimes a child, sometimes a child, sometimes very elfish, very fairy-like, but the same personality. Always, I know it's the same soul, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But just comes as a shape-shifting, if you want to call it shape-shifting. So I had this experience with this blue skin, like I say to Justin all the time. Blue skin lady was there again, blue skin lady. And obviously I watched this video with Graham Hancock, and he describes seeing a blue skinned lady. Wow. And I was like, man, that's just like,
what does color represent? Think about that though. We can only see the spectrum, right? The visible spectrum. That's all we can see. But color represents certain types of energy. And in the highest schools of alchemy, they even use, what's called color healing, like colored light to heal certain things. Now, I thought about this when you were talking about that. In a book by Michael Newton called Journey of Souls, which was a hypnotist. I don't know if you guys read it, but he would take people down so deep and so fast in hypnotism where they would recall what was happening before, like after they died and before they were born again. So in between lives. And all of them talked about, everybody had these different colors of energy about them and certain soul families that they belonged to. And there was a lot of talk about color. So I think when you see that entity that's speaking to you, I think color represents the type of energy that it's putting off. It may come into you a fairy form or whatever, but the one thing that we know is it's blue, right? What does blue represent?
I don't know. What does blue represent?
I don't either, but I'm saying there's got to be something to that. If everybody,
yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, it's always, she is always very familiar. So if I go into an experience where the blue-skinned lady is there, be it blue-skinned child, blue-skinned fairy, elf, mother, whatever. That experience is always very... it's like she's come to see me. You know, I go, we have different experiences, and there are different, and I go into completely different places sometimes where it's very masculine. There are very masculine entities, very, warriors, like tribal sort of element to the experience, and they're sort of very much like, what are you doing here? How have you got here? Why are you here? Whereas she is very... She knows me. She's waiting for when I get to that space and you break through into the DMT space. She's waiting for me. She welcomes me, and it's very, very familiar, which is very, it's very bizarre. Very bizarre.
The colour thing's quite interesting because the visual colours, even though you've got your eyes shut and the geometry, and even when you break through, those colours are just. They're vivid, aren't they?
Oh God! They're colours that you can't. There are colours that you can't even. There are colours that we don't even know
on the spectrum.
Word colour form.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
but if you go back to the initial, like the early days, they were always like the South American colours, Mayan, Aztec-y.
Yeah,
weren't they? And even the geometry was very similar to that. But I think over the years that's kind of drifted away, and it's
because maybe
now there's different stuff
because you're becoming accustomed to having that experience. You're able to get in deeper than possibly. If you look back at what the Mayans and the Aztecs, they all did mushrooms. They were mushroom cults. You're tapping into a collective consciousness where those are the opening stages of the experience, and then the more you become experienced at the experience, the deeper levels you're able to get to. If that makes sense.
And that's like the sacred geometry stuff. And even when you look at the mandalas, like we were saying earlier, those, that geometry that you see there is just,
it's just impossible.
And there's plenty of like GIFs or whatever they're called on various social media things where they try and portray this reality that that you drift into, but they, although they're very similar, like the end of that film, Joe, that I wanted you to watch, Annihilation, there's a bit in there where
I watched it. I finally got to watch it.
So the end sequence of that, when it gets a bit weird, and she goes into that place, and she's
faced with the alien, isn't she? The entity.
Yeah, a bit where it's just really trippy at the right at the end there.
Yeah,
that stuff's like you're in that place. That stuff's there, but even though that's like very close to what we see or what we're visualising, it's still
a million miles away.
It's still so far away from it. It is just in.
It's like you're veering through a portal, right? But it's.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I heard a little while ago which really resonated with me, which I've carried through, and I use this phrase a lot. Is that if you imagine when you're in this reality, physical reality, and you're staring at a glass box, for argument's sake, you're looking at that glass box head on. In the DMT space, it's like you're looking at that glass box from every possible dimension, every possible angle at the same time. It's multi-dimensional. That's the
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. So you can see more than just in front of you. You can see.
You're sort of looking at the same thing from an infinite number of positions,
which is very difficult to explain, isn't it?
It's very difficult to explain. When I heard it's something in that statement resonated with me, and I thought, God, yeah, that is exactly.
And the light, where the hell does the light come from?
Yeah,
because sometimes, like, you don't have any outside stimulation. The lights are off. There's nothing, and you close your eyes. There's always from one side, from the back, or it comes up.
Very shiny, very bright, white light.
Yeah. And you're like, well, that's not. You open your eyes, or when you're coming out, and you think, where did that light come from? Because there's no lights on above me. But how was I? Where was that white light? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
How was I able to perceive that? It's definitely not been stimulated from my eyes, seeing light through my closed eyelids.
So maybe your mind's eye is opening, and then that's the way you're perceiving the light.
And also getting that into perspective about the glass box. There's definitely like you can feel. Even though you're drifting in another dimension, you can feel the self,
Yeah.
And it's like
in the background somewhere
at the back of you, or there's a centre, so you kind of like you understand you are you, right? Even though you don't understand really where you are or what's going on when you're deep in that place, you just perceive stuff and get given stuff. But what am I trying to explain here? There's always like an awareness of I am Justin. I'm human. It's not like you're not confused. You're not befuddled.
Yeah, your mind's not scrambled like if you do a big dose of acid. You have a hard and stringing thoughts together.
Oh, definitely.
See, that's what I worry about, because I've taken acid before, and the stuff lasted 12 hours. And I mean, when I got to the 8th hour, I was like, please God, let me come out of this, you know? Yeah. And I don't like that helpless type of feeling.
This is you. You know that you're you. This is the thing. You know,
but everything about you, like there's got your past experience. So you know, it's like the self. I know I'm Justin. I'm in this place, but every other memory, everything else I've learned about the reality that we live in, that's not it.
You can't think to yourself, I've got a wife and 2 kids, and they're sat at home, and I'm just going through this experience. You don't have a wife and kids. You don't have. There's nothing.
There is no universe.
That's that's kind of like a dream. Like not like a dream, but when I have dreams, I forget about this reality, but I know I'm myself.
Yeah. But this is. It's so difficult to explain, Joe. That's the problem.
See, folks, this is why I have to do this stuff. I'm sorry. I've got to try.
Yeah. And also, as well, you know, the thing is that, like you say, I mean, I've done big doses of acid and big doses of mushrooms, and don't get me wrong, they have their merits. They are most of my experiences with those compounds was way back when I was a kid, and we did it for kicks and we did it for a laugh, and there was no soul searching or any type of learning. I wasn't trying to learn something. I think I would have a massively different experience if I did those compounds now, knowing what I know with DMT. But the beauty of DMT is that it's 5 minutes, and although that 5 minutes can feel like a lifetime, essentially, you don't have the capacity to be fearful of the experience. The fear is the apprehension or the anticipation of having the experience, because you know what's coming. Once you you've done you've ingested the compound, you're flung into that place, and before you know what the hell's going on, you're back. If that makes sense, and then you're able to.
But it feels like an eternity.
But it can feel like an eternity because time doesn't exist in that place, so it's very difficult. But it's like, I mean, we've experienced it with a lot of people, and I have yet to see somebody have a bad experience. I know people do, but I would probably put my mortgage on the fact that person has been, partying all night and just said, "Hey, have a go on this, mate." And that's how you become fearful. If your intentions, if you sit down with someone and say, "I'm going to have this experience," you're not going to have. It's terrifying, but it's terrifyingly beautiful, if that makes sense. It's
even the biggest, scariest episodes are still worth doing.
And when you come out of it, you learn more from those. The more terrifying it is, sometimes the more valuable the experience can be.
The scariest thing is when you start to drift, like your astral projection. You start to move away from the body, and you think, "Am I still breathing?" And there's a point.
Have I died? Yeah.
Where you go, am I dead? Yeah. And if you fight that, then
I don't want to die.
You'll struggle. That's the ego. You start to struggle, and that's probably what's helped me, Joe, over the years. Is that whole thing about the fear of death and that kind of thing.
When people talk about breaking through, is it really just about letting go?
Yeah. I mean, so to sort of, should we walk you through an experience? Maybe that's.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a short break here, because before you walk me through an experience, let's take a break here. You can tell I'm also way too comfortable with these guys. You know, first for the night. First show about dimethyltryptamine, the first time I've cursed like this. Way too comfortable with these guys. We'll be right back with Justin and Paul from the Dreaming Jaguars.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Is there a chance that the dimly lit super-Earth called Bernard B, which orbits Bernard's star, could support life? There's a rocky planet out there that's very big and cold. Its sun, a red dwarf named Bernard's star, looks much larger in its sky than Earth's. It also bathes the planet in X-rays and ultraviolet light, likely enough radiation to strip away any atmosphere. But Bernard's star is also much dimmer than Earth's host star, so the planet's surface is probably a frozen wasteland, the sort of place that likely wouldn't have any liquid water, and most scientists would not expect it to support life. This source, LiveScience.com. And scientists are legit by building a steam-powered spaceship, and it sounds awesome. A half a century after the world's first manned space mission, it seems that interplanetary travel has finally entered the steam age. Scientists at the University of Central Florida have teamed up with Honeybee Robotics, a private space and mining technology company based in California, to develop a small steam-powered spacecraft capable of sucking its fuel right out of the asteroids, planets, and moons that it is exploring. By continuously turning extraterrestrial water into steam, this microwave-sized lander could theoretically power itself on infinite number of planet-hopping missions across the galaxy, so long as it always lands somewhere with water for the taking. This posted at space.com. And a number of UFOs spotted over Ireland by pilots. On Friday, November 9th of 2018, multiple pilots spotted a number of bright, unidentified objects moving at a high rate of speed over Kerry, Ireland, according to the Irish Examiner. One pilot reached out to Shannon Air Traffic Control after witnessing a speeding bright light, later confirmed by 2 other pilots. It was moving so fast, the pilot reported. It seemed to come up on our left-hand side, then rapidly veered to the north. We saw a bright light, then it disappeared at a very high rate of speed.
We were just wondering what it could have been. The incident is currently being investigated. Experts believe the objects were likely meteorites. Story source, StrangerDimensions.com. And time for this edition's fun fact. There is an opera house on the U.S.-Canadian border where the stage is in one country and the audience sits in another. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, anchor and news sorcerer.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Rook. We are live on the Fringe FM. We're here with Justin and Paul from the Dreaming Jaguars YouTube channel, talking about the DMT experience. And man, no matter how much I turn the heat up, I cannot get warm. All right, so where were we? So I brought up a subject about initiation. And initiation back in the medieval ages and Renaissance area, when you did ceremonial magic, you had to go through each element and invoke all these forces and balance yourself. Basically, it was like raising your awareness without doing, I guess, drugs or acid or whatever. But you're raising your awareness, and it takes months and months and months. And finally, when you're done with it all, you become what's called an adept or a magician. And that's what that magician card represents is, you know, you've mastered all of these, you know, your emotions and your intellect and your will and all the stuff. So this concept of initiation seemed like a cool concept to me. Well, I started reading these chaos magic books. Here's where it gets kind of crazy. The chaos magicians relate to everything you guys are talking about on a quantum level, on a consciousness level. And when it comes to initiation, they're like, you know, yeah, it's great to do all that stuff so you can learn the rituals and learn how to interface between these two realms. But if you want, you can simply initiate yourself by having an experience like DMT. Now, I'm starting to believe that people that have had these experiences, like DMT, has changed their consciousness and their lives and their outlook on things so much that they are indeed just initiated, becoming more aware. Just imagine those guys back then had taken that stuff. They wouldn't be able to relate to anybody, but they would be smarter and more aware of all these things. So it's like hyper initiation, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, but maybe, Joe, they started out doing that stuff and then lost. It's been lost over time. Yeah. Because if you look back, even getting into the religion thing and the burning bush, they reckon that was what was it?
It was a mimosa, acacia tree,
which has DMT. It's got DMT in it.
A high concentration of DMT.
So if you imagine Moses or whatever he was sat in a cave and that thing is burning, and he's inhaling that stuff.
But maybe that it was intentional that they to have it, because they didn't have the science back then to be able to synthesize the compound. Maybe if you created a little tent and you set an acacia bush on fire and you sat like the Native American Indians do, they sit in a smoke-filled, a sweat box, if you like, and you set fire to the acacia bush, and the smoke obviously contains the DMT, and Moses is inhaling the story of Moses, whatever that may be. But that story of Moses and the burning bush maybe is a forgotten scientific, method of taking DMT.
You know, when he says in that story, you can't look upon my face because it would kill you or whatever, like you can't handle what I really look like.
Yeah.
Maybe that was their way of trying to explain how they couldn't relate what they really experienced.
Yeah.
Or even the fact, if you try and actually look at the entity and take like I'm looking at a screen right now, if you try and visualise on that, what happens is it just becomes something else, doesn't it? So like trying to perceive the Mac that we're looking at right now, and having all different concepts of dimensions and being able to see it from every perspective. Perhaps that's what that statement meant. If you try and look at the face of God, well, actually, you're not going to be able to perceive it or understand it, because you're going to see it from all perspectives.
And also, if you look at the Bible, what's the first version of the Bible?
The Old Testament.
The Old Testament.
Yeah.
And you look at Ezekiel when the guys are seeing Ezekiel when he comes out of the sky.
Yeah, they're seeing the chariots and the wheels in the sky.
Wings, and he is covered in eyes. Now, eyes is a massive thing in DMT. When you go into the DMT space, obviously you look at Alex Gray's art, and he's got their eyes everywhere. And obviously, if you from the Genesis story, when they see the angels, they are in the sky with wings spread. They're covered head to toe in eyes, and it's like maybe they were having psychedelic experiences. And obviously, it's that over time the story is told how we know the story. But actually, what was happening was that they were having psychedelic experiences, and that's where their belief in the other and the supernatural first comes from.
Right. And how would you relate? So think about if you were back then and everybody wore robes and sandals, man, that there was no TV, no nothing. And you somehow or another stumbled upon a DMT experience. How in the hell are you going to explain that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even if you take the concept, right, of what it has done over the years, like how it shows you yourself, it strips away the ego, it gives you an understanding of how to behave around other people, your defects. If you take all of that stuff, maybe they were getting that, and that's what they were trying to put in their writings back before it was turned into the Bible. And they're trying to give you a concept of these different things. And if you look at the Old Testament, I mean, that God was not a God that, that was a scary mother. Take your kid and kill it, because you've done something wrong. All that stuff. And, and in those realms, there have been experiences where, there's been harshness. You spoke recently, just going off on a tangent, about the clown, Joe. The clown. I've had the clown.
Yeah.
The clown has literally said, "What are you doing here? Don't come back."
Oh, the clown face. Yeah, man. That thing was looking at me as if I didn't belong, like I was some sort of specimen. And I was like, oh, I looked to the right. That's how scared I was, because I kept trying to wake up and wake up and wake up. And then I just kind of stretched my eyes. Like, how you're laying on a couch and you look up and you stretch your neck. And I saw the top of a hood looking over at me with white, like clown paint and dark blue clowny eyes. And as soon as I saw it, my heart just started going doot, 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 and I jerked to the right. And I was like, what the, wake up, wake up. I didn't know what the hell that was.
And there's a whole offshoot on clowns and jesters within. So the meanings of clowns and jesters, and what was a jester? A jester was in the days of jesters in castles and royalty and kings and so on and so forth. The jester was the trickster. The jester was there to pull the wool over your eyes. And obviously, there are some great videos on YouTube talking solely about the jesters in the DMT experience and the psychedelic experience, that they are the tricksters, and there are so many hidden meanings within that sort of ethos and that genre involving jesters and tricksters. And it's like I say, it all points to the same.
It's the same
stuff. It all points to the same stuff. I mean, Justin was talking about synchronicity. So once you've had you get into the DMT experiences, and we had a period where we were doing it probably more regularly than we should do, because you don't want to do it all the time. You've got
that. How many times you've done it?
Hundreds of times. But,
okay.
Now it's every few months, whereas we went through a period of every couple of weeks for a few months.
Yeah.
And we were pushing the envelope a little bit, but we started to notice synchronicities, and one that Justin and I talk about. Obviously, the more you do, the more you have that experience, the sort of more slippery normal reality becomes, and synchronicities start to appear. So we were talking about Justin and I were having one of our sort of normal arguments, and he was being devil's advocate and saying, well, you know, is it just in your brain or is it something else? And I was saying, well, the world over, people report the same thing, and we were talking about the theory of Occam's razor. So Occam's razor is that scientific statement that says all things being equal, the most what is it? I can't remember what it is. All things being equal, the most obvious thing is probably the right thing. Something along those lines.
Yeah, that's right.
If everybody's saying that the DMT experience, you see angels and entities and you go to another dimension, then through Occam's razor, chances are that's probably what's happening. Okay, and the following day, I was out with my wife and kids, and we were in a bar in our local town on a Saturday afternoon, and we went for a bit of lunch, and I went up to the bar, and we'd had this conversation the night before, and the girl at the bar turned round, and on the back of her T-shirt, she had written Occam's razor.
Oh,
yeah. So, and that's just a local band. That no, it's not. It's not a popular band. It's not something. I mean, I'd never heard of them before, but they were performing locally, and she'd been to the gig. And we were talking about Occam's razor. Probably the first time ever we'd used the words Occam's razor. The following day, this girl turns around and she's got Occam's razor written on the back of her T-shirt. And it's like those sorts of synchronicities is where we were thinking, hang on a minute, are we cutting into something else here? Are we sort of getting information? Are we becoming magicians, if you like? That's,
you are. If you've done DMT, according to what I've been studying about magic and chaos magic and mysticism and everything, if you guys have done dimethyltryptamine that many times, if you've had these experiences, these awakening experiences that many times, then I say you are magicians. And not only that, when I look into, when I watch your videos, I can see, and it sounds kind of foo-fooey, but I can see in you guys' eyes that you're walking around in a different experience than everybody else, and that you just want to share it somehow.
Yeah, I think
that you had some type of awakening that you can't explain, but you want the world to know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely a self-awareness. There's definitely an understanding. Even when you're like up the downs and you're filming, or the golden light from early morning filming, the concept of it. So when you first do LSD, that stuff becomes awakened. It's more enlightened to you, and you can see it. And I suppose what you're saying there is we're kind of in a place where you look at reality on a different perspective. You look at a spider's web with the light coming through it, and whereas, if you haven't done that stuff and you're just looking at it and you go, well, that's very pretty or it's beautiful, there's many different concepts when I look at a spider's web with drips of dew on it and the light coming through and the actual shape of the web and how that's formulated, and then how the spider's formulated, how it's made it, and where, you know what I mean? The whole lot just becomes more.
You look at it from a more enriched perspective.
Nice word, enriched. Right? Yeah,
the most advanced magician I ever talked to, he's passed away now, but he would tell me. And he was from England, by the way, a really good friend of mine, but he would tell, I said, when I learn all this stuff, this interfacing, using symbolism and vibration and movement and, tapping into both sides of my brain to speak to my higher self or whatever, when I learn all this whole system, is it just going to be another religion when I'm done? And he said, when you're done, he told me this, he said, when you're done, you'll realize why you did that system. And that you don't have to anymore. And in fact, you can create your own magical systems, entire magical systems if you want to, that are based on whatever myth or story you'd like. And that's the secret. And I was thinking, damn, he said, but the only reason why you're not accepting that now is because you haven't lived it yet.
Yeah, I like that. It's cool.
So what you said, can we bring into reality, because that's what effectively you're saying from magic, right? You bring stuff into reality from using different sigils, different processes and procedures that you do to bring this stuff in. But you have to go through a process of learning it and believing it and understanding it and change your brain concept around what you're actually doing. Yeah.
You're breaking through all your belief barriers, all your emotional barriers, all of your programming to program yourself in another way that learns to speak and interface with that place that you guys have been to that some people think is just in the brain. But the reason why I know, and this is what Gnosis is all about, that it's not just in your brain, is the whole reason why they tell you to journal. Because after a while, you realize, okay, this stuff is coming back to me, but it's coming back to me through the laws of this universe. It's coming back to me every single time. This isn't a coincidence anymore. There's something on the other side, and it's trying to speak to me.
Yeah, 100%.
So now we're connected.
Well, this is again what Mckenna says in one of his best videos, Death by Astonishment, and at the end he says to the guy, "So I don't know." This guy's asking him about the experience, and he says, "All I know is that once you've had that experience, once you've seen, you can't unsee what you've seen. Once you've seen it, there's no going back. You are enchanted. You become fey, I think is the word he used. You know, you're touched by the other.
Right.
And once you've had that experience, you can't unhave that experience. So you become, to a certain extent, enchanted.
So you're opening up. So you can have experiences, but in this reality, without doing what we've done, you can argue against it or make some concepts that will or not take it in properly. Now, because the truth be known, we've drifted into these places, we've seen what we've seen. There's no way I can't unsee that stuff or have come out of it with my own understanding or being
It's changed your brain, it's changed you, and it's changed me, it's changed us. So you become changed. You've become
for the
touched
better
by that,
and you can spend probably years meditating, looking at that stuff, getting into these places, and become like a guru or whatever it is. And not saying that we're on that level, that's what we are, but because obviously there are times when we don't behave like gurus, and that's right. Mentality, but
we don't.
There's an insight there, isn't there?
You're right, Joe. What we're trying to do with Dreaming Jaguars is we're trying to exactly what you said. And the fact that you got that from our videos is a massive encouragement for us, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to share the experience, and we're just two regular guys from England, from the building. We're builders, and we've got kids, and we've got families, and we've businesses, and so on and so forth. But these experiences have shaped now the way we perceive the world, and in my belief, because what I said, you can only talk about your own experience, your own subjective experience. So, from my experience, I now believe that I look at the world in a different way because of having those experiences, and that's what we're trying to portray in the video. That's what we're trying to get across to people, that it's not a bad. We're trying to. And opinions are changing anyway. The opinions are changing. People are studying psychedelics the world over. They're likening psychedelic therapy, using, metaphors that like psychedelics to psychiatry is what the telescope was or is to astronomy when the telescope. Yeah. These things have been subdued now for 40-odd years, and actually they've been subdued and demonized for the wrong reasons. They are beneficial. They make you more respectful for the planet, for your fellow man, and how you conduct yourself in this reality. So it's only beneficial as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's a silly idea to think, all these people are pushing DMT because they just want to be a bunch of punk kids that want to get high. That it's not that idea's got to go, man. I mean, entheogens, small doses of psilocybin, are curing depression for they're saying 4 to 6 months at a time.
Yeah, one session is cures untreatable depression. People have been through depression treatments over and over and over and again. It's done for them. They do one guided psilocybin session, and that's it. They're dealt with for 4 to 6 months before their old habits start to come back, and maybe they fall into the same old traps, and so on and so forth.
Which you're going to do, because it will take years to get you through that. Of
course. And you're not addicted to a pill. You're not going through withdrawals because you don't have the pill.
Yeah. Not only that pill doesn't actually do really anything for you, does it?
Yeah, it just masks
those pills that the doctors prescribe. The pharmaceutical companies they make.
antidepressants.
They're not actually curing or doing anything.
I'm prone to depression. My doctor tried to, and I've been prone to depression my whole life, and my doctor tried to give me that stuff, like Paxil. And I said, well, how does it work? He said, well, you have these SSRIs or whatever, and he drew a picture of the firing of the SSRIs. And he said, when you take, yours just get stuck and they're real slow. He said, but when you take these, they fire faster. And I'm like, so once I start taking these things and they start firing faster, and what if I can't take them no more? Then what's going to happen? Oh, well, you'll experience some withdrawal. And I looked up these YouTube videos of people crying, talking about suicide, and I was like, what the hell? And then somebody takes entheogens. When I say entheogens, folks, I'm talking about small doses of psilocybin, right? And just like, it not only does their brain fire better, but the other things are better in their life. And they're not addicted to it. They don't have to take it anymore. And I think something is, when I talk about interfacing, I think that they might be right. Like whatever this thing is, and I wanted to talk to you guys about this idea of animism, that not only does it speak through us through symbols and colors and emotions, but that it can also speak through us with plants. Like it's kind of like pushing things through the plant world to wake us up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, there is another, again, so Dennis Mckenna, obviously Terrance's brother, he talks about the plants the planet has realised that we are, fucking it up. Essentially, we're overrunning it, we're depleting its resources, etc. So this sort of psychedelic revolution, certainly ayahuasca, that's come out of the forest and has been practiced in the forest for thousands of years, and now not every apartment in America, but all over the States, all over Europe, people are having ayahuasca sessions. There are ayahuasca treatment sessions. It's almost like the plants and the planet is saying enough's enough, and this is how it's spreading the word through these experiences, that this is how we heal ourselves, and this is how we then get back on the path to looking after the only planet we've got so far that we know of. And it's interesting, and he tells that better than I do. But even
Gordon White is talking about, there's a study showing that even mushrooms are popping up in places like they're sprouting like they've never have before, in places all over the world.
That's the weird concept, isn't it, about the mushrooms, the fungi, because it's not plant and it's not animal.
Yeah, it's more like us than plant.
But it's neither.
Genetically.
And whenever you look at the way it connects up a forest under the ground and spreads nutrients to trees that are shaded and things like that.
The mycelium.
The mycelium. What that stuff does is amazing on how it can bring everything. And actually, when you look at how life first came out of the oceans, that was brought out from the mycelium, mycelium that would bury into the rock, break it down, and allow plants to grow. And that was done by that. And it's almost like that stuff's there for a reason. It's not, you know what I mean? When you get to synchronicity, when you look at that coincidence of it, or why is it doing that? Why does it do that? And why are the plants giving us this informational connection, or changing the concepts of two, I want to say rough and ready, but two, I'll go ignorant, not really educated in a university or anything, and then we're given information which changes our perceptions, not for information on knowledge around law or physics or maths, that kind of stuff, but actual information that is relevant to living your life and going down the right path. Where is this stuff coming from? And does everybody get that kind of experience from it?
Yeah, also, you're touching on that, Justin, what Justin just said, is that look at the DMT molecule itself. Your body produces it. It's produced now. They believe it's produced in the pineal gland. It's proven that it's produced in the pineal gland of rats. Obviously, it's very difficult to prove that it's produced in the pineal gland of a living human being, because you'd have to be in the pineal gland to find out. But the assumption is that if it's produced in mammals like rats, that it's probably produced in the brains in the pineal gland of a human. It's definitely produced in the lungs. It's definitely produced in the liver. So why would nature produce or create this if you look at evolution and you look at survival, anything that knocks you out on your feet and lays you down on the ground for 10 minutes, having out-of-body experience, is not going to defend you against a tiger that's coming across or a lion that's coming across the savannah to eat you. So it's not there for an evolutionary benefit in that sense. But why would nature come up with this compound that gives you this completely otherworldly out-of-body experience that does teach you stuff? What would be the benefit of that? It's got to be. This is an argument that Justin and I have had quite a few times.
It's not. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was saying, "Hey, give them this illusion to where they're happy and they don't worry, so they're not in a state of panic," right? But what you guys are experiencing sounds to me like something far beyond just a normal illusion. So that indicates that it's something else, something that's to wake you up.
It's orchestrated, that we should perhaps get to an evolutionary point where we are able to realize that this stuff is there for us to take us on to the next stage of evolution, if that makes sense. Maybe it's going to get to a point where it becomes so widespread that, real outright scientific study is done on it, and we're talking, like maybe look 50 years in the future. And you have a department like NASA that are studying psychedelics and sending psychonauts off into these realms to, you just don't know how far this could push us on an evolutionary scale, if that makes sense. If what we're going to isn't just in the brain, if it is something else, maybe like I said, it's nature's put it there for us to find at the right time, to then take us on to the next stage, and we're either going to take that step or we're going to fucking destroy ourselves. That's the flip of the coin.
And what do we know, right? So now we know that there's this state, and when I talk about astral travel experience, leaving the body or the out of body experience, some of the same things are similar. Like you guys talk about this vibration or buzzing or popping feeling. These are the same feelings people have when they're having the out-of-body, when they really start doing the OBE experience more than just dreaming. When this starts happening, what else do we know? That there's this serpent story is not only in mystery schools, but other people that are all walks of life, scientists, mystery schools, regular Joes like you and me are running into these serpent being type things. We don't really know what they are, but they're also in our mythologies. And that these gods or whatever, not only do they come in different shapes and forms, but the one thing that they have in common is the colors that people see with them. And that's even in hypnotists like Michael Newton taking people into different states of hypnosis when they're in between lives. So we know that. So at some point, we've got to start telling ourselves there's something to this. This isn't just bullshit anymore.
Definitely.
Even if you just start with the benefits of what they're doing for the depression,
practical stuff.
Yeah, even if you take away all that, take away all the esoteric stuff and the out there stuff,
all that stuff. It's definitely, it's been ignored, it's been pushed aside, it's been demonized, and now there's a perspective changing. We're hoping lots of people are studying it, lots of universities. You've got
Johns Hopkins, which is Andrew Gallimore. Andrew Gallimore, he's got some great stuff. Check him out, Andrew Gallimore. He's got a website. He's Building Alien Worlds. So he's a neuroscientist, neurobiologist who is fascinated with the DMT state and has actually come up with a tangible theory on. And it's quite heavy going, but you can just listen to the guy speak. He does lectures at the psychedelic conferences around the world. He is an intelligent guy, and he's come up with a theory as to how we could possibly actually be entering another dimension, and how these entities, what these entities are, and how they interact with us, like a really in-depth theory. So check that out, buildingalienworlds.com. He's a really fascinating guy, and he's pushing the forefront of where this stuff can go. So it's interesting times, definitely interesting times.
What about, I want to talk about this vibration state, because I'm trying to relate it. and you guys can tell me if it's different than this. So the one time, everybody's had astral projection experiences, right? Like everybody that I've talked to, they explained it like it was a vision, maybe a dream. But there was this one time, actually twice, where I was doing the Monroe techniques and stuff, and I got to the state where I was, I'm sure you've heard this before. I was awake, but my body was asleep. And
Space paralysis type.
I was taught at that moment, most people panic, but at that moment you want to relax. And what would happen is I would feel this electrical buzz feeling just come over my body. And I knew that if I'd fought that, then I wasn't going to break through. However, if I just relaxed and let that thing just kind of do whatever it did, and then I'm telling you guys, when I sat up on the couch, I felt like I sat up for real. And I was like, damn, it didn't work. Like, that's how real, it was that real. Like, I'm sitting up in my chair right now with my own eyes, and I turned around, and there I am sleeping. And I was like, holy,
Yeah.
And the colors were realer than they are right now. The awareness, there was this heightened sense of kind of buzzy type feeling. Almost want to say maybe a slight hum that I can't really explain. And I'm wondering if that's it's not the same, because DMT sounds like it's just way more intense. But that process, that buzzing stage, something's breaking through right there. Is it kind of the same with DMT?
Yeah. I think that, like you say, I think that initial detachment from this reality to that space, whatever that space may be, is a vibration, a breaking apart of everything that you're familiar with, and sort of pushing you through to another level. I mean, again, I keep quoting Mckenna, but he says that the buzzing, that the crack, it's like a saran wrap, a crackling of saran wrap as you go into the experience, is that your radio intellect leaving the fontanelle of your skull, if that makes sense. That's what he likens it to. So that vibration is essentially your consciousness separating from your physical body and moving from this space to the other space, whatever that space may be.
Like you change radio stations or frequencies or something.
Change frequency. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it's like. It is like that. Definitely.
Yeah, very similar.
But you can't, when you go into that experience, you don't rationalize that as that experience is taking place, if that makes sense. You don't think, this is that bit where I'm leaving because the experience is so overwhelming and so, again, alien to you that you're almost ripped through that experience and into this next place, and you're like, you don't have those concepts until you come out and think, actually, that's the bit where that was happening. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think about all of the ET and the abduction cases that people have talked about. They always talk about missing time, how they laid in their bed and all of this other stuff. And I think, okay, people think aliens or whatever, they come from another planet. But sometimes I wonder if they're just entities that are that know how to interface and change radio frequencies and stuff. And change the channel. Aliens come through. We'll be right back.
She said, I'm feeling lonely. I said, Lord, so am I. We'll stroll along together, but we won't question why. That ground beneath your feet is flashing red and white, and sprouting little mushrooms left and right. Then she threw me down and put me on my back. Tell the truth, I thought I'd seen my last. But she settled down and snuggled in Mars, and I made love to that maiden from the stars.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. From booms to flashes of light and fireballs, all within just a few hours of each other, on opposite sides of the earth, there have been a lot going on in the sky lately. In Utah's South Salt Lake, it's not anything new for residents there. In fact, it's even more maddening that it has been happening for at least the past 2 years and remains unexplained. Carl Turley tells KSL Television,
"That's when our neighborhood got shaken up, where it just exploded out of nowhere, causing us to kind of go in a frenzy."
His security cameras captured a blast on the night of January 8th. Police have been on the case for several years, but have no clue what it is. On the East Coast, a bright fireball lit up the sky in 5 states that same night and the morning of January 9th. It was also captured on camera. People in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and North Carolina saw it. Was it a meteor? The American Meteor Society believes so. Finally, over in England, a neon green flash was witnessed above Nottinghamshire on the afternoon of the 8th.
Oh, wow, I'm just in a shooting star.
More than 63 reports were made to UK Meteor Watch and the American Meteor Society. Astronomers from the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan believe they've obtained evidence of a large black hole traveling around our galaxy about 20 light years from the center of the Milky Way. Their research has been published, but has not been peer-reviewed. The team is focusing on the peculiar movements of gas at the galactic center orbiting what appears to be an invisible object with a mass equivalent of about 32,000 suns. Black holes are not easy to find since they don't emit any detectable electromagnetic radiation. Read the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio. Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in, The Fringe FM.
So you can text in the show at 501-777-5631. I got a text in here from 604 area code that says, what form does DMT come in, as a powder or liquid? How do you take it? And is there more than one way to take this? Is there different effects? Man, oh man, I don't know what I should say here. YouTube, DMT, Joe Rogan, Terrance, Mckenna, but I would say DMT, you could smoke it or whatever. It comes in powdered synthetic form. They've done studies with it intravenously, actually, but I wouldn't recommend that at all. I would do your own research on this one, because it's kind of, in certain places, it's kind of a touchy subject. But we always have to get into this alien subject, this idea that, I've always had that idea that that's what they're doing, they're interfacing, because when you hear people talk about their abduction experiences, it's, I had missing time, or I was laying in my bed, etc., etc., and sometimes I think they're just interfacing. But we're here with Paul, and I don't know why I feel so bad about talking about that. It shouldn't be a bad thing to say, but it is, because I'm going to be honest with you about DMT. Justin and Paul from the Dreaming Jaguars are here with us, by the way. It is highly illegal in the states, in certain states, so it's highly illegal to possess, which I don't really understand, because everybody's holding. I mean, you have it on you right now. It's in pretty much everything. But anyways, yeah, so when people talk about they're having aliens or abduction experiences, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the times I think that's what's going on, and I wonder what you guys what you guys think about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite into the alien stuff as well, and I've been fascinated with that alongside the paranormal stuff throughout my childhood. I was like, the thought that there is other life elsewhere in the universe that's possibly coming here to visit us and has been for hundreds of thousands of years was just blew me away. But yeah, the more I get into this, and with the more experiences we've had with DMT, maybe that is happening as well. I'm not saying that that's not happening. It's quite possible. I mean, we don't know how that would happen, but it's quite possible. But yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of those experiences, maybe people are having endogenous DMT dumps at that time for whatever reason. They have a big endogenous, their pineal gland or whatever, however that is functioning in the brain creates the DMT. They have a DMT dump, and for that moment, the interface is brought to life, and the entities come through, and they experience it as an abduction, but actually they're having an endogenous DMT experience, which again, is equally as important and equally as real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, or they just can phase in and out, and it's hard to explain. You guys are actually going into, maybe you're going into a different dimension, but it's, your bodies just don't want it to happen so much that you're kind of caught in between, and that's why you're seeing it's kind of like you're seeing the code inside the computer, but you can't really break through outside the computer, or
you're tethered to your physical body, if that makes sense.
And your brain's picking up all this stuff, and that's why you see different gods and all of these different thing, but it really doesn't mean it's not real. It's just you're stuck in between the two realms, where I think that maybe aliens and ETs is, and I know it's hard to imagine anything outside of or on the other side, I guess you could say, of the DMT realm, but what if they are, and they're the ones phasing in and out, right? Yeah. Like our creators or something. I thought about that too.
Well, our next video is called What is Real. We don't go into it in too much detail, but when you start to think about what is reality, and you look at this, the big buzzword at the moment is simulation theory. So we are in a simulation. We've had computer games from the 80s, and we look at the computer games now on the PS4 and the Xbox, and how you play ping pong, in the 80s on the Atari, and now you play whatever game you want to play now, God of War. If you shoot forward 500, 1,000 years into the future, providing we don't destroy ourselves, those games are going to become so real and so immersive that you wouldn't be able to distinguish that reality from this reality. Hence, the simulation theory is that we could possibly be in a simulation, which is in a simulation. And then what is real? I mean, is this the fact that we can knock on a table and it's solid? If you were in a simulation that you didn't know was a simulation, of course you would knock on a table that you would think is solid, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
what is real?
Here's the one thing that throws a kink into that. If it was something like that where it's just computations, and here's the one thing is love. We can't explain that at all. I mean, they try to with chemicals in the brain and all this stuff, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that for one bit. I would die for my son. Which is everything against my human nature, is to stand in front of a moving train or a bullet or something. But I would. I know I would.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Does that? Is there any type of a love or anything that comes through when you guys do this?
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, go. Yeah,
definitely. Sure. Yeah, there's definitely emotions. Like you were saying, Paul, when you go in and you meet the entities, and they, that information or that stuff that's given to you is nurturing or caring.
Yeah.
So you definitely get that feeling. You definitely, there's been a couple of times when that hasn't been there, but the majority of the times are. The emotion, the stuff behind it is given to you in a nurturing, caring, loving way, which then brings you out to understand that actual emotion in a way, and it shouldn't just be for like your children, it should be for everybody and the planet and all life. You get that concept, like life, whatever it is, whether it be an ant or a fly. I think that's like Hinduism, isn't it, where they don't believe you should kill anything.
Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of reality, that's been given across, where you have a concept of
love. Ultimately, love is the message, isn't it? At the end of the day, if that makes sense. It depends
if you corrupt it with a human understanding of lust and
sexual love. I mean, it's love. It's just Well, we're going into some seriously deep philosophical.
The reason why I wanted to talk about it is because when we can talk about all these material things like computers and interfaces and simulation reality or simulation theory, all of these other things, and maybe we might be close to explaining what's really going on, but what gives me hope about, I know you guys might laugh at me, but I really believe that we live in a magical universe. And when I say magical universe, I mean not something that's understood technologically magical or psychobabble magic. I believe it's real. I'm talking about Disney World type of magic, where it's that unexplainable. Because if not, then what is love? Love doesn't make sense to me. Love is something bigger than all of these things, I think.
But like you said, going back to the beginning, Joe, when we first started talking about consciousness and you were explaining your dream, the God was saying to you, I'm going to put a little bit of consciousness in this, and this is going to create the trees, and this is going to create the ocean. So the baseline consciousness is the love. That is the essence, the ethereal essence of being is that baseline consciousness, if that makes sense. So everything else is a derivative of that baseline consciousness. So when you go into the DMT space, the love that you feel is it's a sort of I'm still trying to find it difficult to explain it. It's a I don't know.
Where's the concept?
Well, I mean, have you ever taken ecstasy before? Ever?
Oh yeah. We're children of the rave scene.
All right, cool. Because all right. So you guys totally understand, because I went to a bunch of raves too. There was something that got released in my body when I took that stuff that felt like love, but I still felt like it was kind of a biological trick versus the love I feel for my son is something that was more of like a sexual desire type love or something. I can't explain what I felt when I was on ecstasy. It's very, very hard to explain. It wasn't about sex, but it had something that was attached to it, and I can't really explain it. But the love I feel for my son and the universe and my family and all these other things, that type of love, that's something different. And you can't get that through drugs. But if you're getting it through DMT, then is DMT really a drug?
Yeah, I suppose. So I get what you're saying. But the love, I think coining it with the word love. So it's
I think for me personally, it's an understanding of like everybody and everything is connected.
Yeah, it's a connection.
So first thing you have to learn is you've got to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, then you can't understand that concept. You can't be at peace in that way.
Right.
And then when you come out, or when you've been, or even aside from the DMT, the whole, for humanity, we have to understand that. You say love, and sometimes it sounds a bit, I want to say pussy,
Right, yeah, sounds wussy, yeah, right.
Yeah, pussy, yeah. But actually, it's not sexual love, is it? It's just like a respect. It's an understanding that we are all the same thing. So.
And to care for
caring and nurturing, and you know what I mean. And there's a lot of anger and a lot of pain that we suffer, and that comes out, and we try and put that on other people, like the mirror self, where you portray other people's defects, but they're actually your own defects. That kind of behaviour, you can step aside from that, and then when you have, if we could all, we're not trying to save the world or heal the world right now, but actually. Everything in the universe is made from the same stuff. That's where you were going with the consciousness stuff, where the particle is a bit of consciousness and it's put in there, and that's all connected. And if we all understood that we're all connected, and we try to behave in a certain way, which is, to show care and affection and not be blanked off to somebody else's needs, and put our own stuff on what they're doing or the way they're behaving, like the guy on the street who's drunk too much and now, he can't react or interact in the world of this way. If we forget about that stuff and look at what he's gone through and how that would affect us, and then look at it in an empathetic way, that's the kind of love for and it's almost like a religious thing where all that stuff has started from, I believe. You know what I mean? You're given an understanding, you're given a connection, we're all connected, we're all part of the one thing, so you can't hold anyone accountable or hate someone or have a bad feeling if you step outside of that and think, actually, I don't know what's happened to them, or I don't want to cut them trees down in that forest just so I can do this, or I don't need to.
I have issues killing mice right now. Like, I live out in this damn studio. Every now and then we'll get mice out here, and, mice are rodents. That's what they are. They're vermin. They're rodents. All right. But when you hear one suffering, when you hear one squeal because it got caught in one of your traps or something, when I was a kid, I wouldn't give two about that. Right.
Yeah.
But it hurts a part of my soul when I hear that now. And it still hurts me even thinking about it. And it's I've got two things inside of me fighting, because I've got this one Joe that's laughing going, it's a mouse, what the hell are you talking about? And this other part of me that really hurts because it suffered. It's hard to explain.
I've got one little thing I've just been thinking about there, Joe. So you're talking about the love. Do you experience love in the DMT space? So there's a little thing I've just come up with. So when you're talking about the love, I've got two kids, and I know the love you're talking about. For the love for your kids, you die for your kids, you want to do the best for your kids at whatever cost. So the love in the DMT space maybe doesn't come from you because of the overwhelming nature of the experience, but the entities have that paternal love for you. You are like their child. For me, it feels like, especially certainly the maternal mother entity, I feel that she loves me and she feels like a mother to me, if that makes sense. So there is the love that you're talking about in that experience. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's the same kind of love that you have for
my kids. I feel that they have that love for me, and I maybe because I'm overwhelmed and blown away by what's going on, but I get that protective maternal love from that entity for me at that time. They welcome me. She knows me. She wants to look after me and show me. And it's that. You get what I'm saying? So there's that's the sort of concept of love that doesn't come from a drug experience, if that makes sense.
But I really think the Buddhists believe those things, not because they were, I don't know, they believed it because they felt it. Because once you become so aware when something suffers, you don't want human suffering for sure, but even animals, you start to tap into all that. And, because, you know what it is, man? I think the more aware you become, no matter if you're doing DMT, meditation, whatever it is, the more you're actually literally putting yourself in other people's shoes when they experience things.
Yeah, definitely.
Not just like your parents saying, you should put yourself in somebody's shoes for once. No, like the more you wake up, you're really doing that in some way. And when they have hardships or whatever, you feel that you hurt with them.
Yeah, it's empathy. Yeah, you definitely get empathy. You definitely get to understand how, or you think you understand how people are feeling,
and how your actions affect other people.
Yeah, and you feel for that person, especially if it's been something that you've caused.
And so, I mean, there's so much more we could talk about with this, but I know we're running short of time here. So what have you come closer to any answers about life after death? And when I say that, I want to know for real, do you feel like that? Well, let's start with Justin. Are you more comfortable now, knowing, even on a material level, that when you pass away, that you're going to get a dump of dimethyltryptamine, right? That portal is going to open back up. At least that's what they say. Does it make you feel better just knowing that? Or do you know that there's something else on the other side now?
I think for me, I argue this stuff. So I definitely don't perceive a life after death because it's all my understanding. It's all the stuff that has been I've trying to put together over however many years it has been. But so we're going back to the connection thing. For me, it's all about, so strip the ego away and I'm this part of consciousness, this part of a God. And and take me out of time and space, it doesn't matter. So my only comfort is it doesn't matter. I'm here, I'm existing now. If my ego, if my consciousness fades away through death, it connects back up to something. I don't put that down as a God, and I certainly don't look at it as a going into heaven or, that kind of concept.
Right.
However, if I'm outside of time and space and I'm connected to the one bit of consciousness that is creating everything, then that's my only comfort in it, because I will be received back into the oneness. And if at any time, if you're outside of time and space and at any time that consciousness wanted to perceive me again or wanted to think about what I learned, what I got from this this session in this reality, this life, then it would be able to perceive it. So, and also the fact that we are all part of the same thing. So my children go on, my DNA goes on, and it's all interconnected through that way. And we're just one part of life, humanity. Yeah, the only thing I struggle with is the fact that my ego will die.
You as a person.
Me as a person. Yeah. My ego will be gone. I will never exist again. And I won't see the future, and I haven't been able to see the past. But therein is the thing. Where was I before I was born?
Have you? I wanted to go to. That's awesome, man. I wanted to just think about Revelations when they talk about the white stone, which the alchemists call, the philosopher's stone. When you get a new name and you can take life freely. In the book, they talk about how you could take the river of life freely as you choose, and you're given a white stone with your name on it. And only you and God know that name, and you can take life freely as you want to. I think there's something to that. I think you're going to be surprised. That's just my opinion. I don't know for a fact, but I almost kind of think, fellas, like once we die and then we pass on, we're going to be like, I can't believe I was so worried about all that. that was such a trip, you know, like kind of like laughing like I was human, you know, and I was so worried about death, and it was just shit. I can't wait to go back and do it again.
Yeah, I can sort of relate to that. I mean, I think for me, I think that the question of what happens when I die and what happened before I was born is too big. It's too big to know. I'm never going to know it. But the experiences that I've had lead me to believe that there is something else, and I have experienced a part of that something else, and that something else could be infinitely bigger than the experiences that I've had. And I'm just I'm secure in the knowledge that I don't know shit. If that's the reality of it, I don't know anything really. I also think that these experiences definitely throw up for every answer you ask. You know, have we found any answers? For every answer that you think you found, 100 questions are thrown at you off the back of that answer, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm just happy to go forward that, you know, in the knowledge that there's, in my opinion, there's more. I don't profess to know what that more is, and I feel that we've probably touched a little part of it. But yeah, it's comforting to think that. Yeah,
it's nice to think about those things, though, right?
I agree with Justin as well. I agree with Justin about the concept of, you know, baseline consciousness, and that maybe me as Paul and the life that I lead, I may remember it, I may not. I may go on and, like you say, you may just go through that experience and go, well, I can't believe that I was worrying about that shit. What, you know, yeah. There's nothing. But then I just don't know. So I think I would probably waste time thinking about what's going to happen and just let it happen. But
the wisest people that have ever lived, Buddha and other people have even said that. What is the nature of God, death, and existence? And they would kind of laugh about it. They would like, it's not very wise to talk about things that are impossible to know. You know?
Yeah.
And so, these were the masters, the spiritual masters that said this stuff. And today, I think where I relate to you, Paul, especially in that one video you did where you say, you know, a lot of people out there say they've got answers to all of these things. And the truth is don't nobody know anything. Nobody knows anything about what the hell's going on. And I believe that because in this community, in my community, the paranormal, there's so many people that have the answers to all of this stuff, and they're quick to answer everything as if they know. The truth is they really don't.
Shit. Yeah, you don't know shit. That's the reality of it. But it's good fun to try and find out.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? What are you planning on doing with Dreaming Jaguars? Where do you plan on taking this thing?
Well, I think we're just gonna try and be consistent with making videos. Justin, because I'm the filmmaker, so I've got the background in filmmaking. I'm going to teach Justin how to edit and how to make the films. We've been doing this together for such a long time. It would be nice for him to do a video, me to do a video, and we're just going to keep putting our experiences out there. And you know, we've sort of seemed to have it's found us at the right time. There isn't anything else online that we can see that anybody else is. There's lots of guys talking about psychedelics, but we're just two guys from the UK, and we're trying to do it put these videos together in a sort of high quality production, and just entertain people. It's like you say, you know, if you die and you look back and go, I can't believe I was so worried about that, and have a laugh about it. It's a serious message that we're trying to put across, but at the same time, we're trying to entertain people and have a laugh with it and not take it too seriously.
Open up a conversation.
And just opening the dialogue, and just getting the message out there that this is interesting to talk about and interesting to study, and we're just going to try and keep doing our thing and just get it out there and see how far we can go with it, really.
I find the one thing that I do like about all of this exploration of the consciousness and the paranormal is pulling out the parallels, because I know I'm not ever going to get the answers to things, but it's fun to me to find parallels, like the serpent thing and the color thing and the shadow beings, because I feel like when we find parallels that we're getting closer to something. And to me, the adventure of it all is fun.
It's a correlation.
Well, that's life, isn't it? The adventure of life.
Yeah. Well, where else can people find you guys on the web besides, do you have a Facebook channel and Twitter or Instagram?
So we're Instagram, so it's at Dreaming Jaguars on the Instagram, and the YouTube channel obviously is Dreaming Jaguars. Search Dreaming Jaguars on YouTube. This is the beginning of our adventure in this, putting this social media and these films together. So if you get involved now, then obviously the content's just going to keep on coming, and it will keep getting better and better and better. And at the moment, we're getting a good reception. People are liking it, so it's only going to go from strength to strength. And hopefully, we can change people's opinions and touch people's hearts and just have fun with it, really.
And thank you guys so much for coming on Lighting the Void. We got to do this again sometime for sure. Especially I want you guys, I'm going to be watching your channel, and I want everybody to watch the channel too, because I consider this channel special to me, because it was when Justin reached out to me that one time and said, hey, I'll listen to your show. You guys were talking about synchronicity. I swear on everything, I would sit back and wonder, literally wondering, who else am I getting out there to? Because if I'm not getting out there to anybody besides just 10 or 20 people or whatever, they're all just in the U.S., then I don't know if I want to do this anymore, because I'll still do radio, but I don't know if I want to do it like this. And I swear, literally, I don't know if it was that same day or the next day, Justin sent me a message about how he liked the show and listened to it. And he was all the way across the pond. And I was thinking, that's crazy how just simple people like you and I can affect others just because we're on this journey,
Yeah, for definite. Definite. And I love listening to the show. And like you said, I reached out then because that time in my life, my views were changing, and I wanted to find something that I could really engage in. And just, all day long, you're in headphones when I'm working, and I'm just listening over and over to the shows, and it just keeps me going, and it's helping changing my perceptions, or help me to understand stuff in a different way. And, Joe, you're doing a brilliant show, man. I love what you've done. And however you change it, I'm gonna keep listening and keep tuning into you, and I love the guests as well, mate, because they're out there. They're on a side where I struggle to put that stuff and conceive it properly, and then I listen to them and I buy into it, and I love it, and I listen to all of it, and then I go away and then I break it down, and I'm disagreeing with stuff, and then I'll come on again and I'll listen again. Awesome, mate. You just got to keep doing what you're doing, Joe. We're loving it. I'm loving it.
I'm not much of an entertainer, right? But I'm trying to learn how to become an entertainer. Of course, when I watch y'all's videos, I see I don't even know if I'd call it entertainment, but it's like you get more information, you become more compelled. Like when I was telling you earlier how I could see the light in you guys' eyes, like something. There's an art to video, just like there's an art to audio, and I think you guys have got that down too, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
We're looking forward to that journey.
Justin and Paul from the Dreaming Jaguars YouTube channel. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, as I promised, I'm going to play a clip of the old audio clips that Justin used to send me while they were going on this journey, while they were taking this substance. It's going to be pretty wild. Stay with us.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas, the Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tesey. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover, with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonder Light Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's F-R-I-N-G-E at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on the Fringe FM.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Don't forget we're here Monday through Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight. Monday nights from 10 p.m. Pacific to midnight. After the show, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be on. New programming every night here on the Fringe FM. Early in the evenings as well. Then we do the best of or French free-for-all throughout the day. So, as promised, The reason why, how I met these fellows, and I told you this at the beginning of the show, is that Justin would talk to me. He would send me emails at contact@lightingthevoid about their DMT experiences. And I said, I think I said I would really like to hear one of those. And so they recorded their sessions. And after I heard the recordings, I fell in love with it because it was like taking the journey with them. Now, I don't have enough time to play the whole thing, so I've kind of snipped it together here. But I would laugh and listen to him try to explain it, and it was really cool to hear him try to explain it. And so I wanted you to share that experience with me here, and hopefully we can have him back on the program. And I can't wait to see more of their videos come out. And I always tell everybody that if you listen to this show and you're thinking about doing a radio show or a YouTube channel or anything like that, I highly, highly suggest it, because you don't want to go out and try to make a living off of it, but that should never be the main goal. But there's something about it. There's something that it does for the soul. So if you're into content creation at all, or if you've ever thought about it, I think you should do it. All right, so here we go. Here's one of the first sessions that Justin from the UK, which he's the guy on the commercial you hear with the Cockney commercials we always play, that sent me one of their sessions. And as you can tell, I'm very comfortable with these guys, so I slipped out a few curse words tonight. And when they got into this one, I had to, hopefully I cut them all out. I hope I did. Here we go.
I told myself to just drift through the experience, paying attention to the little things that I saw, and none of it was. It was like I was like passing by. It's like I was like a little passerby, just observing. So usually, when I go in on a strong dose, the entities are animated, like as in they are intelligent. Like I feel that there is intelligence to.
What, and they're visually there?
Visually there, totally visually there, yeah.
Okay.
What they are, I don't know, but I mean, if you cannot, you can't. It's not like they're there, are they? You're part of this whole experience, yeah. You're part of you become part of their experience.
Right.
So they are intelligent and they are interacting with me. That's what I'm trying to say. They're interacting with me, yeah. That experience, I was able to drift into it, and to start with, exactly what, for the first, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, the visuals were there, but they were really
muted. Yeah, I definitely felt muted.
Yeah, like they were behind
a black veil,
sheet of dark glass.
That's exactly where I was.
Filter. Right.
And I even pinpointed, it's like in my own mind, I went, it's like a camera filter.
Yeah.
Why can't I? Because usually you go bang, and then straight away it's like looking at a TV screen.
You're there, aren't you? It's your
visually, you are capable of identifying this shit.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you just said, it was like a bit of tinted glass, and I was looking through and I couldn't focus.
Did you go any further than that?
Yeah, but it was like, I'll tell you what happened was I was in that place. And I lay back and I'm like, what if I haven't done enough? So then I'm like, it's not enough. This is why I can't see it. No, I can't see it. And then I've got this personal take on it.
Then it just switched up a little gear without you knowing.
No, hang on.
No.
There was a lot of stuff, some personal stuff that came to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, is that my brain or is something trying to tell me this shit?
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm because I can identify eyes. So you're always at the back of your head there.
Yeah.
You can feel yours. There's a centre point of view. So it don't matter how far you get, that's always there.
Yeah. See, I'm more right at the front of my eyeballs.
All right. Okay. So that's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because from me, I looked that way.
I'm right behind my eyes.
I looked behind my eyes. I looked that way, and I'm like, what are you looking at? You got your eyes shut, but I'm not that way. And as I drifted this way, there was a darkness there, and it wasn't malevolent.
Yeah.
Malevolent,
yeah.
It wasn't like being horrible. It was just like, no, hang on a minute. You need to identify this. And then I'm going, well, that's me. Is that my brain? Am I telling myself this? And in my head, I went, well, is that you? Let me know. Yeah? Show me something if it's me or if it's you. And it kind of was just like, you need to contemplate some shit. Then it kind of started going away, and I'm like, I could, I'm seeing some stuff. Then it started getting a bit more visual.
Yeah.
But there was a darkness behind it.
Right.
And then
as in like a darkness, not a dark force.
No.
Like just a dark looking, like it was darker.
There was a lot of black, and then kind of what it did was I looked that way. You always have the light, and you feel like the light's coming from behind. But it was like the dark. There was black, and it was there.
Right.
And then it kind of twisted, and then what I had was I had visuals, like the geometric shapes were all there, but right behind it, mate, which was quite strange.
Yeah.
Like fractally, it turned into like that.
Right. Tribal.
There was like tribal, even though it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, there's a darkness there. What's that all about in my brain, and or in me, or whatever it is, and I'm thinking that, and it kind of so behind the geometrics that I'm getting there was like two layers.
Yeah.
And there was this like where it was breaking up. It was going almost tribal, and it was like doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that, and I'm going, why the fuck is that stuff there? Because this is. And then at some point, I yawned. I went like mid yawn. I did. That thing you do. You can feel it behind your eyes when you yawn.
Yeah.
Everything just exploded visually then.
Right.
But it was all on a black background, so it was like.
Yeah.
So I want to do this paint. Actually, I want to do this painting of Jupiter, yeah?
That's it, perfectly rolled to your head.
Well done. I want to do a painting of Jupiter, and I remember going, you want to do a painting of Jupiter? Everything was black, but the fractals were just like split across the whole of my visual scope. So all the vivid colours were there, but fractured behind on a black background.
Right. Nice.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at it and I'm yawning, I'm going, that's you yawning, and then I kind of went back and I just sort of like, no, let it come, and then there was like a wash of that stuff, and then I'm like, oh, now I know I'm coming out of it.
Yeah.
I can feel like I'm coming out. And I yawned again, and it kind of came up, and I went, well, that's strange, maybe there's a vibrant, when you yawn, when you do this muscle thing, you kind of like, oh, whatever. But it kind of brought it on.
I tell you what, it was a really strong body buzz as well.
Yeah, my body was trying to come out.
Yeah, I felt it really, almost a little bit uncomfortably, and it wasn't like the visuals. And then I just sort of, my body was really strong. Really strong body buzz, like stronger than normal. But then I'm guessing maybe because I was more in touch with I was more intact.
Well, no, maybe if you took that back to say like an ayahuasca trip where you come up really slowly, what we've done there is as low amount, so you've had a little viewing of what. Imagine if that's what it's like, because I did feel uncomfortable, especially when I came out of it. I was so tired. I literally could have laid down and just gone to sleep.
Yeah, no, it definitely crept, and also I remember at one point, so I was looking at the black girl. She was walking along the street.
Where the f*** does that come from?
I don't know, but she was rolling along the street and she had her hand on her hips. She kept looking back like that, and then she was just holding this little thing, and it was like a sign. There was a sign in it saying something. What was it saying, mate? And I was trying to read it. I was trying to read the sign, right? And at that point, and I remember laying there, and I was laying there thinking. The body buzz at that point, it was weird because the visuals came on through the tinted glass, and I remember thinking that's what Jazzy was saying. I don't think it's going to get any more powerful than that. I don't actually think it's going to get any more powerful than this. And then all of a sudden there were just flashes of it that got a little bit more colourful, a little bit brighter, and then I was thinking, I'm just sort of passively viewing, and then I was looking at the black girl. She was sort of giving me a come on a little bit with the sign, and it had writing on the sign, all different colours of writing, but there was still some sort of swirly going on around the sign, and then it cut. I looked across, and the same black girl was sat on the fence going, "You fucking wanker," doing all some weird, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're pleasant," and it kept on going through the scene. It was like I was walking down the street or floating down the street, but she was very cartoon-like, big wide grin,
right?
Not sort of normal features, exaggerated features, exaggerated real cartoon-like bubble butt, yeah, Jessica Rabbit style,
right? Animated,
very animated. Not
animated.
Yeah, it was, I was drifting into it then, and at that point, I remember letting go of the body buzz, letting go of the sofa thing, and I actually, for that, however long that was a part of that scene.
Right.
Yeah, sort of enveloped in the scene. There was something on, I can't remember what it was. And then I opened my eyes for a split second, and when I shut my eyes, it just really went really down. I thought, oh, okay, that's it. So then I keep my eyes open, and obviously the room was glorious at that point. And I don't remember thinking to myself, you know, I've wanted to acknowledge enjoying these visuals.
Yeah, what it's like when you're opening your eyes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, when I'm in there, my eyes are just, I'm like, I can't open my eyes.
Yeah.
Whereas when I come out then, my eyes open and I'm like, hello.
But I reckon, from a personal point of view, if I was on a strong dose and I came out too early, the speaking thing, I'd probably start to worry me.
You're now getting that, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've had that for years.
Yeah, I'm now only getting that.
Where I come out,
your speech doesn't sound like you can't articulate properly.
Paul, but it doesn't sound like I've said Paul.
No.
It doesn't sound like my mouth has formed the words Paul.
No.
And it's completely bamboozled. Our brain has made my larynx and throat and mouth create this word, and it goes, what the f?
Yeah.
So, like, I want to say, so it's like you speak without thinking about what you're going to say. Normally.
Yeah.
But when you do it in that place, you're like, you do the same thing, but then you go, how did I just say that?
Yeah.
How?
And did it sound right? And was it the right thing to say? And did it make any sense?
How did I just say that? Yeah. Well, what is that all about then? Where are you getting that confusion from?
Don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's sort of like...
I clearly got... Now I'm more comfortable with doing it. I clearly got... You ain't been in the right place. You haven't been in the right place for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get the connection that you're after. If you want to learn, so if you want to get a connection, if you want to meet some entities, but they're not coming through. So what has come through has been like, you need to have this information, and we're going to look past that.
Yeah.
But right, and that's what the darkness was there for. It's going, no, mate, no.
Really? That's interesting.
It's going, no, come on.
Yeah.
You're now in a place to hear this.
An animated bubble butt like Jessica Rabbit. I can't do it. That's fun though. I could listen to these guys do this stuff all night, and I've got a few clips of that. That was just a small clip, but we got to get out of here. I want to thank Justin and Paul for coming on Lighting the Void. It was a real pleasure. I hope we can do it again. Go check out their YouTube channel, Dreaming Jaguars on YouTube. And this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chronox, Space Station, Kevin MacLeod. The War Mix was from the public domain. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. If you're listening live, stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.